I pressed the button too, so I don't know if you actually pressed the button. But...
I didn't press the button. No.
Okay. Hello,
Yo,
everybody.
everybody.
Hope you're all
Oh,
doing
hope y'all
well.
doing well.
Happy
Happy Tuesday.
I got an echo apparently in the room here. It's almost time
You
for
got it.
Halloween.
It's
okay.
almost time for Halloween.
So there was this interesting debate that came out a few days ago that I saw a lot of people clipped, but I don't think most people actually watched. And I just got around to watching it, and I was like, wow, this is actually a very good, interesting conversation. We should cover this on the show. So that's what we're doing right now.
Okay. Interesting. All
So
right.
this is the Daily Wire. They're arguing or debating, very cordially debating, the group chat that got leaked to Politico that showed a bunch of people that were part of the various Republican. It was like the young Republican group, even though it was like 18 to 40-year-olds. A lot of them worked in the Republican Party and had various roles as staffers and such. And there's a lot of, like edgy jokes and maybe not so edgy jokes and things that seemed racist and things that were racist and blah, 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 blah. It kind of came out. All those people got in trouble. So they're having a conversation. They're having a debate about what the reaction should be to that. But more importantly than that group chat, because I don't think that group chat is very important. I think the broader question that's more important is, should political movements on both the left and the right draw a line in the sand where they say, hey, this is what our ideology stands for, and we're not going to join forces with people that are more extreme than us in some fashion? Is that an important thing for a political movement to do?
Delineate its boundaries, its ideological no-go zones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, now Michael Knowles makes his point, which I actually think is a good point to make, is if you're a political ideology and you don't draw boundaries about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, then how could you possibly even be a political ideology at that point? If you're just permissive of everything.
Right. Yeah. Then you're a progressive, right?
Well, not really, because they're not permissive of
hate speech and
so
all kinds of different things. But look, obviously, if someone on there, that's the problem with all these ideologies. It's like, here are the rules, and if one of our guys disobeys the rules, they're like super lenient. But if someone else disobeys the rules, they're like, fuck you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
God, I can't stand Matt Walsh. I really can't. I watched this and for a minute there, I thought, I'm going to start calling Republicans fascists. He drops the baby killers line, and I'm just like, okay, well, look, if they're going to call us baby killers, then I think fascist is on the table. But he calls himself a fascist. Like he's got theocratic fascist in his bio.
Right.
So.
Right. Which comes up right in the beginning of this, which is interesting. It's funny. There's like a vibe that I guess Matt Walsh exudes that I think really rubs people the wrong way. Because even Sam, Sam's like, super pro Trump. She really does not like Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
She hates Matt Walsh too. So.
Well, Matt Walsh is he wants to run your life, and it just totally rubs me the wrong way.
Yes. Okay, so let's jump into this.
It was pretty spectacular. Good times. Well, from that, I feel like should we talk about something serious? Matt, you talk about something serious.
This has been far too much friendly small talk so far in this friendly fire. We got a lot of the friendly, but not the fire.
Not a lot of fire.
Yeah. So okay. So let's get into. I've been strictly instructed that the intros to these topics are supposed to be 2 minutes, but my primary and most reliable strategy in any debate is just to talk and not let anyone else. Filibuster is my only. It's my only move. Politico. Let's talk about Politico. This is one of the big stories happening right now. And for anyone who's not familiar, Politico published a couple days ago this big hit piece revealing the private group chat conversation of some young Republicans. And the young Republicans are not elected officials. They're not anyone that anyone's even heard of for the most part. There's one person in the group chat apparently who works in the Trump administration who is not recorded having said anything. So he was in it, but as far as we know, he didn't say anything quote unquote offensive. But there were other comments made in the group chat, as Politico reveals, that were a lot of edgy jokes and a lot of offensive language that's being used in this group chat. And most of it, as Politico finally admits in the article, if you read all 57 paragraphs of it, they'll finally admit that, yeah, most of this is supposed to be a joke. Although they don't, of course, put that in the headline. And the title of the article has the quote, "I love Hitler." And when you look at the context of that comment in the group chat, it's very obvious that it is a joke. It's sarcasm, very much in line with the kind of sarcasm Republicans use all the time about, yeah, I'm real far right. I guess I love Hitler. Along the lines of me having theocratic fascist in my Twitter bio, which isn't entirely a joke, but it's mostly a joke.
So this is the problem. Yeah, this is the exact problem with sort of, I have a lot of this stuff is, I mean, he just said it. I assume at first when he put theocratic fascist in his bio, yeah, it was some joke. Someone called him that, said, "Oh, you're this thing," and he's like, "LOL, let me put in the bio." But now, by his own admission, he's like, "Well, maybe it's not so much a joke."
Yeah, exactly.
And you say, "Okay, well, what does that mean exactly?" And you should be highly suspect of anyone in the political space who refuses to clarify and speaks very vaguely. It's the easiest thing. It should be the easiest thing in the world for someone to ask you a question and you to clarify. And I'm sure everyone's seen this a million times. There's some politician speaking, and everyone knows they don't want to answer some kind of question about some topic. And so they keep answering in this very vague way, or they keep trying to change the subject. And you're like, well, no. I'm asking you about this very specific thing. Can you answer this very specific thing? Okay. Did you do X? Did you support this? Did you do this? And they just don't want to answer it. And it's the same thing with political pundits. If they're just going to be vague and they're going to not clarify their position when literally it's their job to speak and to have opinions on these topics, to me, that's a very big red flag that either A, they believe the thing and they know they'll get in trouble for saying that, or B, they don't necessarily believe the thing, but they don't want to anger the group of people who does believe the thing. They'd rather have their support.
Yeah. This is what everyone's always accusing the left of doing with the far left, which they are 100% bring up.
Doing that. Yeah. And they 100% are doing that and have been doing that for a very long time. And then now we get into this other issue, which is how many layers of irony are you on, where you have a lot of people who are making jokes. And I'm sure a lot of the jokes are just sincere jokes. But for some people, they're not jokes. They're either sincere feelings or they're ways in which they're trying to sucker people down into believing more extreme views. And you get into this, how much of the joke is really a joke space.
Yeah, no, it introduces a level of deniability.
Yes.
That's the problem with it.
Right.
I think this is why there's a prohibition on it a lot of times, is because people understand there's this level of deniability that they just don't want to deal with. They're like, let's just not say that, and then we don't have to wonder if you're serious or not, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's weird too, because okay, there's a difference between I have a group chat with my friends who I've known for years. We all have a pretty good sense of who the other person is. So there's a large level of of being comfortable to make edgy jokes or to be racist towards each other too, which is very common in a lot of male friend groups, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna make racist comments about that person's race to them as a joke, and then they're gonna make racist comments about my race or my ethnicity or whatever back to me in this kind of friendly manner, because we all know each other. I think that's very different than, this is a large group chat that has thousands of people in it, that's part of a larger organization. This is not like your personal group chat.
Yeah. But the internet obviously makes it feel more like you're just with intimate friends.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's what lulls people into occasionally doing dumb shit. But
of course, yeah.
It's ironic that Ben Shapiro is constantly called far right. I mean, there's probably 1,000 videos on Vosh's channel about how Ben Shapiro is so far right. And Ben Shapiro in this conversation is the one that's like, hey, maybe we shouldn't give in to the far right. Right?
Yes. Yes. In fact, I saw there's an interesting clip of Destiny spurging out about this conversation.
Really? Oh, interesting.
Because he's screeching at Ben Shapiro saying, "Oh my God, you're a hypocrite because you're so permissive of, the right being racists to everyone but Jews. The second that they're anti-Jewish, you jump in.
Where is Ben Shapiro being racist against black people? Where?
I don't know.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. But
so this is kind of this kind of breaks down a few different ways. And for me, the story here is not the group chat, because these are private messages between people that no one knows. These are not relevant people. And the only reason why the media is showing us this, the only reason why they're doing this is obviously it's a political hit. And in particular, they're trying to distract from the fact that the left has spent the last month, I mean, really much longer than that, but especially the last month, openly celebrating political violence. And now we have a attorney general candidate, who's probably going to be the next attorney general of Virginia, who was in his own messages saying, not as a joke, that he wants his political opponents to die and even their children to die. And he was very specific that he was not joking about it. And so the left is looking to distract from that. And
I don't think this is a good argument, because I think the bottom up process matters. So even if it's a bunch of nobodies, if that's the feeling on the ground, it's good to know about it. I think a better argument is, this kind of thing happens in private chats on the right and it happens openly on the left. Obviously, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there was a bunch of really insane shit being said that probably should have been said in private, right? Not publicly, not broadcast to the world. So, yeah, I think that's a much better argument.
Yeah. I mean, and also they're not nobodies. They are involved in the Republican Party. They are staffers. They are working with an organization that's supposed to cultivate people to work for the Republican Party. That's the whole point of the organization.
Look, if they're doing some sort of recruiting, then that's even worse, because they're saying, look, to be a part of our organization, you got to love Hitler.
Right. And
that's not good.
I mean, it's possible that I don't know when Politico got the leak chats. So it's theoretically possible that they were sitting on them, waiting for the opportune time. They're like, okay, now we have to distract away from this attorney general story. Like, I guess it's possible. I think it's not very likely, though. I think they just released it.
Dropped them when they had them. Dropped them when they confirmed that they dropped them when they checked in on the people.
Usually
these weren't just anonymous people.
Yes, usually these organizations are very horny to drop things like this. But that being said, like, I don't mind people comparing them, because obviously, it's pretty completely insane that you had this attorney general running in Virginia who was not kicked out of the Democrat Party. It was denounced, but was not just like kicked out of the Democrats that were, okay, we're just completely drawing any support from you whatsoever, which they should have done. And then all the people, obviously, that were cheering on Charlie Kirk, who were not politicians, but still just kind of unhinged. I don't have a problem with people like talking about that, talking about the context of the political situation we're in, but that's very different than the pivot, sort of like tribal reaction, this emotional defense to pivot to the whataboutism of, well, what about what this other side did? We can't denounce our side because the other side did something bad, which is sort of the direction that Matt's taking this. And I mean, I hate to bring it up again, but it does remind me of the entire position that Destiny had regarding Charlie Kirk, where he kept arguing this on Piers Morgan and everywhere, that he would not denounce the people that were calling for violence or were cheering it on because the other side wouldn't do it. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do the right thing until the other side does the right thing. And, we both argued that's the completely insane mentality to have. It's just going to make everything worse. And so this is exactly the same mentality of, well, we need to unify. We can't denounce our side or denounce the bad actors on our side because the other side is worse.
Yeah.
And their way of doing it is by somehow obtaining these messages and putting them out to distract us. And some Republicans have been very quick to offer their denunciations, to say how offended they are, how horrible these messages are, that everybody involved should be fired, that they should never be allowed in politics again. I think that response is foolish. I think it gives the left exactly what they want. I have really appreciated J.D. Vance's response. Now, I think the vice president has struck exactly the right chord on this, because he's not going to play the game. And instead, what he's done is he has redirected the conversation back to the thing that the left is trying to distract us from. There's one reason and one reason only that this story exists. And it's to get us to stop talking about Jay Jones and the leftists who've been celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk for the last month. That's the only reason that the story exists. And so J.D. Vance's point is, no, I'm not going to play that game with you. I'm not going to give you what you want. Instead, I'm going to redirect the conversation back to the thing that you're trying to distract us from. And I think that's exactly the right move. I think there's some disagreement about that, though. There's more to be said about it. But I'm going to go first to the guy who I think is most likely to agree with me, and that is Michael. Michael.
Well, you're right, Matt. I totally agree.
Was it the swastika on his forehead?
Yes. Hey, listen, we're Italian, and Mussolini, he was a complex figure. My only take on this that probably has not been said elsewhere is, even the fact that we're talking about the ideology of the far right and comparing the far right to the far left, and whether or not people like Hitler or whatever, is actually kind of missing the point. I strongly suspect these messages were leaked by another young Republican. That has been reported. And having spent a lot of time with New York young Republicans, I promise you, this whole thing is about some petty personal grudge, and it's some power play within New York politics, and it actually has very little to do with the ideology or putative ideology of these texts. But I totally agree. There is no comparison whatsoever between some 19-year-old kid who's making edgy jokes trying to outbaste his friend in a group chat, and a former state legislator, would-be top law enforcement official in Virginia, saying, as you note, Matt, that he is not joking when he calls for the death of his opponents and even the death of their children. So, yes, not at all. Now, the question then becomes, should we ever police our own? Should we ever have guardrails, or do we say anyone, to the right of Hillary is on our side? And I think the answer is obviously yes, there have to be guardrails. Just like a nation is circumscribed by its border, so too a political coalition is circumscribed. That's what delineates it as a specific coalition. But if the question is, how are we going to arrive at those guardrails? Are we going to say that anyone who ever, gets caught telling an off-color joke by Politico, they're completely cast into the outer darkness? No, I don't think that's right. I think we should have guardrails. We should police a coalition. And the way we should do it is very carefully. This was Scalia's answer when, as a student, we asked him, hey, where do you draw the limits on the Second Amendment? Where do you draw the limits on stare decisis? And everyone wanted a really ideological answer. And his answer was, very carefully. We kind of know, we're prudent, it's a people business. And should these kids have their lives ruined because they were mouthing off and telling jokes in a group chat? No, I don't think so. I think we need...
But we're not prudent.
So, well, there's two issues. There's the group chat and then there's the broader point. And I think the group chat is not really that important overall, except in terms of I guess last thing I have to say about it is in terms of the strategy that Matt Walsh lays out. Is it strategically better for Republicans and J.D. Vance to not denounce it, but to just do a whataboutism pivot? Now it's funny because he didn't call it whataboutism, but he called it a redirecting, but it is a whataboutism pivot to talk about, the attorney general guy in Virginia or Charlie Kirk or something like that. Is that actually politically effective? I don't think
is it a dodge though? I mean,
it depends, because if you say, and this is where I think the distinction is important, if you say I don't support that kind of language, and we don't welcome, Nazism or pro-Hitler speak in the Republican Party, but this is not that important to the conversation, the national conversation, and this is really a distraction from the more important conversation, which is, and then you go to the whataboutism with the Attorney General. To me, that would be the actually good political strategy, because you'd be solidifying your position you'd be solidifying your party, and you'd also be sort of you'd be escaping from the whole like, okay, well, you're just covering for this stuff because you really believe it, because you're, clearly denouncing it. And then you also move to the issue, the pivot to the issue, whataboutism's the issue that you want to focus on. That's very different than just not even denouncing anything whatsoever and then just immediately whataboutising him. Because that just is going to allow the other side to say, well, look at that. He's not actually addressing the issue. He must actually be in favor of it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what JD Vance's response was. So I don't know if he said exactly what you laid out or if he just said,
he just
I'm not
hand
gonna
waved it
comment on
away. He said, like, oh, I'm not going to be engaged in this pearl clutching, when the attorney general said, these really bad things. Was his response.
I have a hard time. I have a hard time doing a bunch of finger wagging here on the private chat conversation. So, I mean, obviously it is indicative of, you look to it as, is it indicative of the cultural environment that we're in now?
Right.
Yeah. And, is it a one-off? Is it pervasive? Is this like one person? So, but I was thinking about this in the context of like, where is it okay to like start wagging your finger? And I'm not sure it's a good political move for JD Vance to come out and start wagging his finger. I mean, if he said it the way that you said it, where he's not basically condemning anyone, he's saying, look, we don't welcome that stuff.
Condemning the concepts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's way better.
Right.
That's way better, more politically astute, obviously. So, and a better strategy. You don't want, look, right now, Republicans are on the top of the world because they're not doing the finger wagging. They've completely painted the Democrats as kings of the finger wagging. So I agree that they do need to police the far right to some extent, but they have to do it in a way that's politically smart.
No, that's definitely true. I mean, right now there was a lot of finger wagging about Charlie Kirk. It was just you and I perceive it as warranted finger wagging.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I agree with you.
Like, is it finger wagging if you're endorsing political violence? Like, is it finger wagging when we're talking about the trans issue where kids are literally being castrated? Is that finger wagging?
Just means to reprimand someone. Right. I know it has like a negative connotation to it, as if it's like an undeserved, but
it does, yeah. I mean, when I'm saying finger wagging, I'm thinking of just needless busybodies getting into people's business, policing things that are really none of their business, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I agree with you in terms of this group chat. I mean, I'm always skeptical of something I can't see the entirety of, and I don't believe. I mean, I read the Politico article, but I don't believe they released the whole chat for anyone to go through.
Yeah,
I didn't
of
see
course
a link
not.
to it in the article. And so I did see a lot of things, and it's like, I don't know what the context that any of these things are, how much of this is jokes, how much of this is not jokes. Some of the things stood out to me as like clearly joking. A couple of them where I was kind of like on the fence about, like, okay, maybe, but I'd like to see some additional context. So yeah, I agree in terms of the specifics of the chat group. It's not really worth getting into. But what you said, which is really important, is where are we currently right now? What is the environment?
Yeah, exactly.
And the environment that we're in right now, at least online, is that the far right ethno-nationalist movement is becoming more and more popular every day. Multiple people on the right have said that it's becoming more and more popular every day. Nick Fuentes comes out, he has a podcast on Spotify, and it hits #1 in 24 hours. And so they have to remove it and kick him off the platform. Anything with him in it gets millions of views and in, comments. And it's becoming very, very increasingly popular to the fact that the mainstream right, which the Daily Wire definitely is, can't, and I don't think any mainstream right organization that's on the internet at least, can't just pretend like these are a bunch of nobodies that they don't have to interact with anymore. There has to be an actual interaction or an actual acknowledgement and denouncement of this. Otherwise, you're just going to recreate the 2015 scenario where the alt left takes over the mainstream left because the mainstream left is too afraid to talk about them until it's too late, till they're too afraid.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Ben provides some ancillary evidence that's far better than the group chat. He's like, my death threats from the right are off the charts right now.
Yes.
So,
which is, I didn't know that Ben's getting very consistent death threats from, the far right.
yeah, and look, the Groypers were all over Turning Point USA. They did not like Turning Point USA.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fuentes was even saying, the grouping of Turning Point USA will continue. And all this stuff.
No.
And his response to the group chat was to say like that, that more Groypers should be infiltrating the Republican Party, but they need to just be more smart about it and hide their power level. So
yeah, why are you going to unite with the side that is actively against you? I think they bring this up in here too.
They do. Yeah. Why are you going to side with a group of people who maybe on some short term you're like, okay, we can get votes, which is not really even clear that that's going to translate into votes, but is at the end of the day seeking to subvert you and take you over and replace you, supplant you.
So, I mean, here's the thing. We're just not. I mean, so I would agree with you that quote unquote policing, you need to be prudent about how you police. I also think that everyone agrees, I would assume, Matt included, and Matt, you told me if I'm wrong here, that there are certain things that can be said that social consequences should actually attend to. Certainly that's true on the left, right? If you say that you want to murder the Speaker of the House and then calls the kids fascist, there should be social consequences that actually attend to that. I agree with everything you say about the difference between a private group chat between a bunch of young Republican idiots who are outbasing each other, and the attorney general candidate in Virginia actually saying the thing running for office. Now, I will say, I don't think these people are kids. I don't think 31-year-old's a kid. I don't like using the sort of language of kids to describe people who really should be married and have children of their own by this point in their life. And
I love that he comes in here with this. He's like, what the fuck, kids? Kids?
Yeah. Yes.
You should have kids. Grow up.
And I think the kind of loose playing with that term, as though if you're a 31-year-old, which is what one of these people was, that somehow this is the equivalent of being 17. I don't think that's true either.
But the YRs go down to 22. I mean,
I agree, but some of the people who are being quoted here are in their 30s, some are up all the way up to 40. I get it. Again, I'm not even disagreeing with the motivations of the Politico story. In fact, even on my show today, I talked about the motivations of the Politico story, which, Matt, I agree, are completely scurrilous and designed to distract from the sort of violent rhetoric we've seen from the left. But it has led to, I think, a reactionary response on some parts of the right to say there should be no policing ever at all. No social consequences should ever attend to things that are said on the right, that it's basically just pure my side versus your side. The problem I have is, number one, I think that's immoral, and number two, I don't think that's pragmatic. I don't think that's moral because I think that there are things that get said on the right that are really, really, really ugly, and pretending those away doesn't make them go away. I think that they're rising. I think common. I know that my death threats from that side are getting more common. I know I have more security because of that, and it's not just from the left. I have lots of security from the left, and I also get lots of security from the right. Matt, I think a little bit earlier today you tweeted that kind of your litmus test is the people who are trying to kill you, and I totally get that. I also have that litmus test. The difference is that I think that if somebody tries to kill you, Matt, there's a good shot that it's going to be a leftist. If somebody tries to kill me, it's a frickin' Agatha Christie novel. I just don't know which direction the bullet is coming from at this point, given the sort of various and sundry radical extremes that exist. I'm not going to say that the right is equivalent to the left in this respect, because I don't think it's been mainstreamed to nearly the same effect on the right that it has been on the left. But to pretend that it has not infiltrated a lot of very important spaces, I think is sort of whistling past the graveyard. Now, again, that's not.
This is why so many Jewish people have to be on the left, have to be Democrats right here. Exactly what Ben Shapiro is talking about, because that's, I mean, if you have conservative intuitions, moral intuitions, but you're in a group that is constantly talking about the Jews, that's got to be difficult.
Yeah, well, like, obviously, for most of my life, the whole like talking about the Jews thing was very relegated to like the far tiny extreme ends of the conversation of the far right.
Right.
It was not something that I would ever interact with or see on any level unless I went looking for it. And then now that's completely changed. Now it's completely changed. Right. So it's you can any internet social media post or any YouTube video or anything like that, where there's any subject matter that has anything to do with Jews or Israel, there's going to be a bunch of comments, talk about how bad the Jews are and how the Jews are behind everything or something. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
definitely spread. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming for most of Ben Shapiro's life, it was the same thing. I think I don't know how old is Ben Shapiro. I think he's only a little bit older than me. But oh, never mind. He's 41. Okay, so he's more a little bit older than me. But for most of Ben's life, I'm sure he was in the same camp, that he was conservative and he never really interacted with people hating on him for being Jewish or anything like that. It's sad and interesting that that's kind of what it takes for most people to sort of want to police their own side or to have that sort of revelation. Is that's like as soon as they're attacked by people, like as soon as they're attacked by their flank, they're like, oh, I have to actually, be aware of this. As long as you're not attacked by your flank, it's very easy for people to just be dismissive, to emotionally be dismissive of it.
First of all, thank you, JMac, for the 50 gifted memberships. Very generous
Thank
of
you.
you. Welcome new members. Also, the Justice 35 member for 37 months. Obviously, a fan of Sitch and Adam that's on the left. Has a chat here, a member chat that I think is pertinent, because this is one of the best reasons not to give in to the far right, because it allows people like the Justice 35 to say, yep, I told you so.
Right.
He says, wow, the mainstream right acting as a pipeline to racist beliefs? Never. Who could have foreseen this based on conservative rhetoric for the last 40 plus years? So look, there is a narrative war going on here right now. And this is why they published the group chat, because obviously the people on the left want the narrative to be that all Republicans are greedy racists. That's the narrative that they're pushing. And they, if they can find any evidence of that, they're obviously going to publish it.
I think the problem with any political ideology, people that are into politics, you're going to have a disproportionate number of people that are extremists, that are into politics, than you are in the normie population, right? Because people that have very extreme views and are animated about those views are going to get into politics, while the average person is not. If they're very moderate views, they're not going to be animated by that. Now, again, I'm not saying, to be clear, I'm not saying that the majority of people in politics have extreme views. I'm just saying the majority of people that have extreme views are going to gravitate towards politics. And I think because of that, you get in this situation where any political ideology, doesn't matter what it is, left or right or whatever, any political party, there's always going to be a pull on it into that direction. Any political party can devolve into a pipeline for radicalism as long as there's not strong borders, as Michael Knowles says, or strong gatekeeping that is activated by the party itself, by the ideology itself, to prevent people from slipping down into more radicalized pathways. I would disagree with the Justice 35 in terms of, I think that the majority of the radicalization process that's happening on the right, to me, seems to be directly a reaction to the radicalization of the left, and the fact that the left has become so, the far left, the alt left, has become so identity racialized obsessed that it only makes sense to me logically that that's going to get a bunch of people on the right to go to the far right and also become identity racialized obsessed as well as the far left.
Fight fire with fire.
Right, exactly. That just seems to be, to me, to be the logical step. I'm not sure I see like a 40-year pipeline. Like I would think if there's a 40-year pipeline of trying to radicalize people, it would have happened before 2025 at this point.
It's interesting because this panel, so we've got Ben Shapiro, we've got Michael Knowles, we've got Andrew Klavan and Matt Walsh. And on this panel, I think two of them do believe that the left is misguided, and two of them believe that the left is evil.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones do you think think the left is evil?
Well, I know Matt Walsh thinks the left is evil.
Okay, easy pick.
I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if Michael Knowles thinks the left is evil.
Look, okay, well, we can argue over that, but you went for the two that I was thinking of.
I'm assuming that's who you're thinking of. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Definitely, yeah. So, and who do you think is like further right? Because it completely makes the analogy that you're giving here. I mean, it's kind of like some evidence for that analogy, because it does seem like the two guys that are the furthest right are the ones that do think the left is evil and not just misguided.
Right. But
Yeah.
even Michael knows, as he said to Matt Walsh, he does think that there needs to be borders. There does need to be some delineation between who's on your team and who's not on your team. He is disagreeing with Matt Walsh's position, which is that the right should all unify and they should adopt a no enemies to the right stance. He is disagreeing. So this is actually a 3v1 on that stance.
Right.
Which I'm glad to see, because I think that stance is a terrible stance. That's the stance that allows extremism to grow and to fester and to eventually take over your movement, as it always wants to do.
Yeah, the argument that Ben Shapiro makes in this is just so good. So it's such a great argument. Let's let him make it. I think he's on the verge of it now. So
yes,
story. There's more of a broad commentary about where we are in the movement, and as a matter of sort of morality, we all have things where, again, I'm not saying cast into the outer darkness, right? I'm not calling for any of these people who I think everyone knows who I'm referring to, but I don't think I'm calling for any of these people to be deplatformed, removed from YouTube, or removed from Twitter. In fact, I've called for many of these people, Nick Fuentes, for example, to actually be returned to Twitter, despite the fact that we have some pretty significant disagreements, including the fact that he thinks that I and people like me are scurrilous, sons of Satan, or whatever, however he would put it. But that is a different thing from, is this person part of, quote unquote, the movement that I belong to? And the answer there is he doesn't think I'm part of the movement that he belongs to, which he's made very clear. And so that gets into the question of there's the morality of, when someone says something bad, should you condemn it? And I think that as a general matter, you can do what Winsome Sears did, right? Winsome Sears is running against the attorney general candidate in Virginia. She was asked about the Politico chat. She says, yeah, that's bad. Now you do Jay Jones, which seems to me like a pretty good answer and a good way of policing. Well, and then when it comes to the pragmatic,
can I say
just
something?
Drew,
you were in the group chat.
Yeah.
I mean, Drew, sorry, one more point on the. I just want to make one more point here, and then you can say whatever you want. On the pragmatic side, I fundamentally disagree with this idea that the reason that the right, quote unquote, loses is because we fragment while the left is unified. The left is losing because it unified around its crazies. Do not unify around your crazies. Sure, the crazies can vote for you. They can vote for your party. You can't stop them from doing that. It's a free country. But that doesn't mean they should have like a decisive voice in the future of the movement, because if you do that, you end up with the trans movement running the Democratic Party, and you lose from here to forever. It's the Democratic solidarity that's destroying them, not the Democrats as a sort of fragmentary party.
Hang on, let me.
don't unify around your crazies should be as prominent as it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah,
it really should be. That should be like base politics right there.
Yes, and it should be so obvious, because again, when Trump won, this was the argument that everyone on the right pointed to. They said the left unified around their crazies. They allowed the crazies to control the conversation. This is why Kamala Harris, example of what I was exactly talking about in the beginning of this, Kamala Harris was too afraid to be specific on the whole transing the prisoners conversation or transing the illegal immigrants conversation. And because of that, she comes off as this fucking crazy person. She's allowing the crazies to dictate the conversation. And when the right, I think correctly, pointed out that was a big factor in helping Donald Trump win, why would you then turn around and be like, oh, well, we should allow our crazies to dictate the conversation with us?
Yeah, it's definitely a bad strategy. Well, I keep going back to the one interview that we saw with Kamala Harris, where it was all the super far left journalists, and they kept asking her all these super far left questions, and she did not push back at all. She let them walk all over her, which made her look weak, and it made everyone think, oh yeah, this is what she's going to do when she gets in office. All of her far left radicals are basically going to be running the ship. And I never saw that in Trump at all.
No.
Trump, as much as the left would try to paint Trump as doing that, I think he did a decent job of standing up to the really far right people. especially on the abortion thing.
Right. He would play ignorant about some
To some
things.
extent, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I don't know who David Duke is. And then you have a clip of him knowing exactly who David Duke is, or I don't know who the Proud Boys are. Right.
But there was never anything like that on the
yes,
left.
but it was
though.
not.
Yes.
It was nowhere near as bad as it was with Kamala, or I'd say just the general Democrat Party, in terms of allowing the crazies to run wild all over them and then just bend over for it. That's why you had the video of everyone, kneeling for the BLM protest and all that other stuff.
Even if Kamala did that, it was like, oh, I don't necessarily know who all these Marxists are. At least it's acknowledging that they're fucking crazy.
Right.
Like, come on.
Yes.
She wouldn't even disavow him in that way. She'd be like, oh, what's your problem? Let's talk about Palestine.
Right. Squeeze her. I hardly Louise her. Thanks so much for $20. Says, I was at the LA protest when Hassan showed up. There was a bus. This is a true story. It pulled up to a red light and he tried to feed it a carrot. He thought it was a horse. This really happened.
There was a what?
He tried feeding a bus a carrot.
A bus?
Yeah, Hassan is so out of touch that he thought a bus was a horse and he tried to feed it.
Like a city bus, huh? Okay.
Yeah, like a bus. He's never seen a bus before, Adam. Okay.
Interesting.
It's like an animal. He's just confused.
What is this animal and why did it eat all of these passengers?
Right. The Justice 35, thanks so much for $20. Says, no, Adam, all conservatives are not greedy racists. Conservatives do, however, make it easy to be racist when you say things like Obama isn't a real American, and every minority's DI higher, unless they're conservative, then they're one of the good ones.
Well, look, I never endorse Obama isn't a real American. And I did see that happening on the right. And obviously, that's not necessarily a good thing. I wouldn't say like that's all conservative. So,
right.
And the DEI thing, I just think whenever anyone says anything about DEI, it's very easy to characterize it in the way that you've characterized it when that's not really the intention. So,
right. Yeah, that was sort of the issue. And I think I did take issue with the whole Obama is an American thing. And that's why I was glad that, John McCain stood up to that. It's because, it isn't necessarily going to be an automatic racist thing, but it can be very easy to see how that slips down the slope of okay, what kind of racialized worldview are we sort of promoting here? It's very easy to see how that can lead to that. So
right, yeah.
God Joke, thanks so much for $20. Says, unable to watch live, but would like advice from strangers I watch regularly. I ended a 2-year relationship a month ago and been wondering how much time I should wait to get back in the saddle. Coworker says 2 weeks. A friend says 1 year.
Well, it depends on what you mean by back in the saddle, obviously.
Like back in the dating game, I assume they mean.
Yeah, well, look, dating, I think you're fine. I wouldn't wait a year to date anyone. Oh, God, no. But maybe a year before you get into a serious relationship. So I wouldn't hold off on dating for a year.
No, yeah, I would agree with you. You shouldn't give up on dating for a year. I mean, it's up to you. I think it's better to, you said 2 months, right? It's better to say, oh no, it was a month ago. Yeah. I mean, I'd say a month is a good time to start to get back into things. You don't want to get too far away from it because then it can get too easy to sink into the new state of being that you're not actively trying to get into a relationship.
I think now is the time to start dating again.
Yes. So I would agree. Now. Do it now. And sorry to hear that your 2-year relationship ended. Listen, everybody, I had a 3-year relationship. Okay. That ended. And now I'm with the wonderful Sammy G. Okay. Wow. So there's always, you can always find something better, right?
Yeah, it's tough, obviously. When you're young, you've got your heart set on a certain person.
Yes.
So it can be very tragic. I've had relationships like that have ended that I've been super sorrowful about. And other relationships, I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank God it's finally over. So
right.
I think I've probably gotten my heart broken as many times as I've broken other people's hearts. So I think I'm even. So, but yes, yeah, you'll find someone.
Let me well go to Drew just a second. I just want to respond to two things there. And the first is, and I've heard this argument that, well, the left is losing because they failed to drive out the radical elements of their party. I think there's a false premise there, though. I don't think that's actually happening. I think, Mamdani, one of the most radical political figures we've ever seen in this country, is about to be the mayor of our largest city.
Because there are no Republicans or moderates in New York, Matt. I mean, Trump's been president twice, and it was the trans issue that killed Kamala Harris in the last election because they won't stop doing the trans issue, which is the most extreme element of the party, including, obviously, what happened to Charlie.
Yeah. And the trans issue was a big problem for it. But that's also...
See, this is totally just a clash of worldviews, because Matt Walsh... I mean, he thinks that the left is like a far bigger threat. And he runs his platform stoking that fear in people. So obviously what Ben Shapiro is saying is interfering with that narrative that runs his entire show.
Yeah, it's because
Go ahead.
obviously if you have a place where a Democrat or Republican can't win, you're far more likely to have that place become more extremified by the Democrats.
Think of where we are right now. Everyone is saying that the Democrats are not even competitive in the midterms.
But exactly.
And Matt Walsh is here saying, "Oh my God, look, they unified around their crazies and they're destroying us." In what world?
That's the irony of the situation is like, okay, yes, if you have a place like New York or some other place, Republican can't win, it's far more likely you're going to get your AOCs or your Mamdanis or whatever. But then even on top of that, it's like, you did have to have a situation where the current Democrat mayor was embroiled in a massive scandal.
Oh, yeah.
So that he couldn't really run again. Like an insane scandal that he forced him to drop out. And you have the only other person against him is Cuomo, who also has many scandals against him and everyone fucking hates. So is this really like a good indicator of even the politics of New York City? But then as you said, brought up, like, why are you looking at some blue area in a blue state versus what did the whole picture looks like? And the whole picture looks like is like even with all the stuff that's going on with Trump, and even though a lot of people are like fucking despise Trump, he's still more popular than the Democrats right now.
And in the middle of doing mass deportation, he's still popular. So I mean, look, you're getting everything you voted for. I don't know what you're complaining about.
Right.
He's, why he's saying it though, because it makes the argument he wants to make that the left is ascendant and they're on the rise. And I mean, if Mamdani wins and New York falls apart, it's going to be in the left's face again, and they're going to lose the 2028 presidency.
It's hard to, I don't know. I can't read Matt's mind, so I don't know what the exact motivation is. I don't know if it's that he just has a complete fear of the far left, then that's the motivation. I don't know if it's that he actually is way more aligned with the far right than he wants to publicly acknowledge.
Oh, he is totally.
I get a sense and this would be a question, very interesting question to ask. I don't know if he'd actually answer it, because I saw a lot of people when he had his post, and he brings this up, when he had his post about the no enemies to the right post, and that the right should all be unified with anyone that's on the right, that identifies on the right. A lot of people were asking him, like, well, who are you talking about? Like, name names. Who are we talking about? Are you talking about Candace Owens? Are you talking about Nick Fuentes? Like, why are you being so kind of vague? Why are you vague posting? Like, say who it is exactly that you're talking about. Because the question I would ask him is, there's that Daryl Cooper X post that he deleted because he got so much flack for it, that came out during the time of the Olympics. And he had the picture of the Nazis taking over France. And then he had the picture of the drag queen Olympic game at the opening of the Olympic Games. They had that drag queen intro thing.
Yeah.
And he's like,
ridiculous.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, the Nazis taking over France was preferable to the world that we live in currently. And I would be curious.
Oh, that's so
what
insane.
Matt Walsh his take on that. What is his take on that? Because a lot of people are framing it that way. I think that's a stupid way to frame it. It's very much kind of like, you hear the Hassans and you hear the communists, and they're always like, oh, I want the communist, takeover should happen, because then I'll be like a poet in the park, or I'll be a streamer. It's like, no, you're going to be working the fields. Okay. The same thing. A lot of people LARPing for like the fascists or the Nazis. They're like, oh yeah, like when the Nazis take over, I'm going to be doing whatever job I want. It's like, really? You think the authoritarian government, the Nazis, who by the way, weren't just like white supremacists, they were specifically German supremacists. So I hope that you have German blood in you and you're not just some sort of, other inferior white. But yeah, you think that authoritarian group, when it takes over, is going to, look upon you very favorably and allow you to have, free reign in your society the way you have now? Like, you're out of your fucking mind. So
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so
I
I would be curious. I don't know if he would answer. I'd be curious to what his answer is, if he would say yes, the modern situation is significantly better than if the Nazis took over or something like that.
There's always going to be a left and a right, because in society, there's always going to be a need for security and there's going to be a need to exploit opportunities. And the left is just, they're the opportunity gang and the right is the security gang. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think Matt Walsh fundamentally believes that the right can win and banish the left from existence, which is just a really naive way to look at politics. So, and there are plenty of people on the left who think the same thing. Those people who want to do Shakespeare in the Park. They're like, if we could just get rid of all the conservatives,
right,
everything would be great. No, you'd be doing Shakespeare in the Park, and the conservatives in the nation next door would come over and basically take over.
Yes, because you'd have no.
You'd have no security. Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah, you'd have no security.
Have no way to protect your society.
And you'd have no protection. Well, you have one of two things. Either A, if it's a truly like fully leftist society that has killed or re-educated by force all the conservatives, then you're going to have no gatekeeping to preserve actual useful institutions or traditions. So the entire society is going to fall apart. Or more likely is that you're going to have what happens in every communist country, which is the authoritarians take over. And they just sort of use the left-wing ideology as
a shield,
as a shield to justify them taking over.
Not really. It's more like a cover story.
Yeah,
because they really are authoritarians.
Yes.
Sooner or later, that is the super scary thing about one-party rule, because that's when the real jackboots come out.
Yeah, because there's no one to push back against them at all.
Yeah, no mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing too, is that when we talk about the sort of the quote unquote radical elements of the right versus the radical elements of the left, these are not exactly the same thing. The radical element of the left denies basic biological reality. I mean, you're militating against these basic realities that we all understand, and that's not happening on the right. There is no equivalent of that, of someone saying that men can have babies. Like there's no exact equivalent of that. But the second point on
this is why, and I guess I should let him say that before I made my comment about the Daryl Cooper post, because that's the comment that made me think that. It's like,
I saw your post, because it is insane. Like, so many people on the right are denying the Holocaust now. So
right. It's like, okay, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about on this channel. We've covered a lot and had a lot of debates with a lot of people on the left about, trans issues and things of that nature, and the nature of sex, and how that, it's a biological reality and all these other things. So yeah, I think it's completely insane for people to deny that. But to say that, like, okay, well, denying the existence of biological sex is significantly worse than denying the Holocaust, or significantly worse than being advocating for white ethno-nationalism, or advocating for fascism or something of that extreme nature, that's a pretty crazy take to me.
It's crazy to me too. Yeah, obviously.
I would prefer living in the society that we've lived in for the last 10 years, where there's a lot of people on the left that were completely wrong about trans issues. And yes, a lot of kids were definitely harmed by that. I think the amount of harm created in our society would be significantly worse if we had an alternate reality where no one believed in the trans issue, but that same level of energy of acceptance of the trans issues actually was people accepting and promoting ethno-nationalism and the Jewish question and Holocaust denialism and all these things, I think our society would be significantly worse off.
Yeah, it'd be horrible for Black Americans, obviously, who have every right to be here just as much as white Americans do.
Right. That'd be horrible for anyone who was not exactly the exact correct ethnic breakdown.
Yeah, definitely.
Politico article itself, okay? Obviously, if somebody says something publicly and they've decided to announce it to the world, well, then that's fair game for anyone to disagree and anyone to say anything they want about it. But with that in particular, I think that in almost every case, if you are speaking in private, you're having a private conversation, and then somebody with obviously sinister intentions comes along and takes that private conversation and makes it public, in almost every case, my position is, and this has always been my position, I don't care. I'm not even paying attention to it. Okay, I am not going to dignify that. I'm not going to go along with it. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm not going to reward that strategy. And
Is he doing this with Candace Owens? Publishing Charlie Kirk's private text messages?
I mean, first of all, he's not doing this with the Attorney General. He just talked about the Attorney General 2 seconds ago.
Oh, yeah.
The guy who's running for attorney, that was a private text message where he was wishing harm
You're
on
right.
people. So
He's
this
not
is
ignoring
even
it.
true.
You're right.
Like,
That's hilarious.
It's just he's just saying it in an open breath. Now again, I don't if his position was just I don't like people leaking messages, we should take this stuff very cautiously.
Well, I agree with that.
Right. I agree with that completely. If he said, I think most of these things in his messages were jokes, not so bad. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, fair enough. That's not really the issue. The other three people on the Daily Wire have the problem with. They have the problem with the whole him just saying there's no enemies to the right. That's what they have a problem with.
Right. He's like, we got to police the movement. Or Ben wants to police the movement.
Yes.
Matt is like, nah, you can't do that.
by the way, part of that's a principled stand on my part. It's also it's like a self-preservation thing. I don't want people doing that to me. I don't want people going through and revealing my private conversations. Not because I'm
They got to be horrible. They got to be fucking horrible. Oh my God. Matt Walsh's private texts.
I'm saying those kinds of things, but because these are private conversations. Now, there are exceptions to that. One exception is if you're running for political office and you want to be the top law enforcement official in a state, and you've said privately that you think that, half of your state should die. Well, that's one of those exceptions. I think probably in general, if you're running for political office, that's an exception. There are things that become fair game that otherwise wouldn't be. But outside of those
Yeah, but see, there's the problem. I don't even know why he would, because the whole thing, this wasn't just random people. These were people that were part of an outreach group to get young people to be Republicans that were communicating in the group chat of that organization. So that would still fall under his own exception.
exceptions, I just fundamentally disagree with the idea that we should give these people anything that they want, or that we need to start now condemning things that were said in private in conversations that had nothing to do with us. We weren't involved. We don't have the context. They were not intended for any of us to even see in the first place. And should we police that?
So
I would say no.
I want to say this. First, I agree with everything that Matt is saying in its context, in the context that we're talking about. I don't see why I should care about these people on a private chat. I don't think private chats should be revealed. And when the New York Times is spewing out perversion and racism at a level that is far, far beyond anything these people are saying, and incitements to violence, I don't see why a private chat compares to the New York Times and the crap that they turn out every day. I also agree with Ben that nobody should be censored. I don't want to censor absolutely anybody. However, let me say this. When J.D. Vance comes out and he condemns these people, and J.D. Vance is one of my favorite people in the administration. He was my choice for vice president before Trump picked him. I think he's doing a spectacular job. He would have a lot more authority if he would stop hanging out with Tucker Carlson.
I guess it depends on what you mean by that exactly, because if you disagree with things that Tucker Carlson says, then no one is saying that you can't disagree with them, you can't make your disagreement known, you can't debate them, whatever. Of course you could do that. I don't agree with everything that Tucker says. I don't agree with everything that anyone on the right says.
It's a different category, though, Matt. It's a different category. I mean, yeah, you and I disagree. Ben and I disagree. We're all talking about the same world that's actually happening. you know, to say that Hamas.
Well, I think, but well, I guess I think Tucker is talking about the same world. I think
Really?
he's got, yeah, I think he's got different views on the world than you do. But if we're talking about standing up and saying I disagree with that strenuously, here's why. Well, then yeah, absolutely. If we're talking about
This is so true of modern politics. It's really not the ideology as much as it is the fact set. The facts that people believe really dictate their ideology. Well, it's like a chicken and egg thing because the ideology makes them select those facts to believe that they're actually true. So,
Right.
and I think the problem is there is so many people who do believe these wildly different facts. I guess the problem is that where it becomes tangible is that those different fact sets are often contradictory. So they can't all be true. Where you do have more wiggle room with the ideology.
Yes, and I wish he would have not interrupted him because I was curious as to what the comment about Hamas was that he was bothered.
We can back
by.
it up a little.
No, he interrupted. We don't know. No, I'm not.
Oh,
he
Andrew
interrupted
Klavan
him.
interrupted him. Okay.
No, Matt Walsh interrupted Andrew Klavan, so he couldn't finish his thought about
The
I
Tucker
assume
Carlson.
Yeah, I assume he's talking about because there's some comment that Tucker made about he said like Hamas was a political organization, or just a political organization, or something to that effect that people had a big problem with, as opposed to acknowledging that it's sort of like a terrorist group.
Yeah, I don't watch enough Tucker to really know. So
I know you said you're not supporting censorship, but if we're talking about sort of driving somebody out of the movement, alienating them, saying, that disowning them, that sort of thing, I absolutely, totally, very much disagree with that.
Matt, you might disagree on that on Tucker.
I'm just talking about mercy killing is the same as saying a man can become a woman. It's just as crazy.
Well,
hold on. Let's just take Tucker off the table.
yeah, what was said there? I didn't get it because they were
what?
talking.
Listen to that. That's insane.
Disagree with
Matt, you might disagree on that on Tucker. I'm just talking about
mercy killing is the same as
saying that the Holocaust is a mercy killing.
Is the same. Yeah. So Andrew Klavan, I missed this the first time I heard it. So Andrew Klavan saying what we said. He said saying the Holocaust is a mercy killing is just as crazy as saying that a man can become a woman. And Matt Walsh says, no, it's not. And Andrew Klavan makes this face like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why did Ben not? Why did he interrupt? I really that's the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, totally.
a man can become a woman. It's just as crazy.
Well,
hold on.
Let's just take
Ben. Let's take Tucker.
Oh my God.
Do you think? I completely missed this interaction first time I heard this. Now I'm starting to think that Ben and Michael Knowles are covering for Matt here because they feel like it doesn't sense. It feels like they're trying to stop him from saying something that they know will get them in trouble. Like, why would you interrupt that? That's an important point to talk about.
I saw some articles that made it sound like Ben Shapiro threw Matt Walsh under the bus or something.
I did not. There are a bunch of articles. There are a bunch of videos that sort of framed it that way. That's not.
But it's not true.
Not how I interpreted this.
Oh, from this is a conversation that those articles are about?
Yes.
Oh, that's okay. That's ridiculous.
Well, they're referring to this conversation and also that Ben on his own show before this, he had spoke out against the concept. I don't remember if he named Matt Walsh by name, but he spoke out against the concept of like, oh, you can't attack your own extremists. He spoke out against that. So people were like, oh my God, Ben Shapiro's like annihilating, Matt Walsh, which they were kind of framing that way for clickbait.
Right. Gotcha. That is a crazy exchange here.
Look at his face. Look at Andrew Klavan's face.
I know. He's like, what? What? It's weird that he can't just agree. Oh yeah, both of those are fucking wacky.
Yeah. Yes.
Both of those are just fucking crazy. The Holocaust. Who's making the argument that the Holocaust is a mercy killing? That's something Tucker Carlson is saying now?
Well, it was sort of the argument that Daryl Cooper made to. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. He's talking about Daryl Cooper making an argument that was kind of like that to Tucker Carlson when he was talking about the Holocaust.
That's some pretty sick shit.
because Daryl Cooper was making this argument that like, oh, the Nazis like had to do the Holocaust. They didn't, it wasn't. They had all these prisoners. They were going to die of starvation. They didn't have enough food. What were they supposed to do?
Oh wow, that's
He was
fucked
framing it
up.
that way instead of an intentional ethnic cleansing.
That's fucked up.
Or,
Yeah,
well, ethnic genocide, I should say.
The person you put in the dungeon is starving to death, so it's a mercy killing when you kill them. Aren't you the one that put them in the dungeon to begin with?
Listen, why are you asking these silly questions? Okay.
I don't know. That's just that Daryl Cooper, or is it? I've been seeing the Ian guy. Is it what are the two names? Daryl Cooper and Ian something else?
Ian Carroll.
Yeah. I've been seeing his tweets on Twitter now when I go in the algorithm mode, and people seem to be beating up on him in a way that I find palatable. So,
well, Ian Carroll's, at least openly, he's far more extreme than Daryl Cooper, because Ian Carroll 100% openly promotes that the Jews are the secret cabal underneath everything, every conspiracy that are running the country. And I have to give a lot of credit to the Quartering, who's been very vocal in attacking Candace and attacking Ian Carroll, because they keep making these claims, and then he'll point out that they make a claim like a month ago about how they have all this explosive evidence that the Jews or whoever is behind something, and then they never actually produce the results. But all their fans just forget or ignore that, and they just move on to the next conspiracy that they promote.
Yeah, because all their fans secretly think it's true anyway. So, well, I guess
Right.
not secretly. They openly think it's true.
Yeah, they don't care. So
Tucker off the table there for a second, because obviously Tucker is a very fraught topic for a lot of people, myself included. But I think that, I guess the question for Matt is, there are certain people who you would basically say don't belong in the movement. And so the question, I think, for everybody, and I think this is one that we should openly discuss. I mean, if we're going to have these discussions, is who doesn't? Right? Like, who doesn't?
I'll give you a takeaway on this that is obviously timely. When Charlie was killed, the guy did like 10 jobs. I mean, it takes innumerable people to fill all the things he did. The most valuable thing he did from a political coalition standpoint is he kept the coalition together, and his events were the events to go to, and his platform was really setting the agenda for the Republican Party. And Charlie made a really important point, to have a coalition in which he would not be pressured to get rid of Tucker, but he also wouldn't be pressured to get rid of people who hated Tucker or who Tucker hated, or whoever, where the various constituencies hated them. But Charlie, furthermore, to your point, Ben, also drew a line. There were plenty of people that were not permitted into TPUSA events. And so he did this in, I think, an obviously very effective way, a way that did not fall into the perils of, a movement becoming too extreme. And I just wonder if there's not a lesson that we could take from that.
I think here's a good rule of thumb about Charlie, by the way. How about this? How about you probably don't belong in a leadership position, shall we say, in the conservative movement, if you won't just buy into the basic factual idea that Charlie Kirk was murdered by a gay man who was a trans furry lover. How about that? If you spend your days fulminating about all the other things with regard to Charlie and speculate that he was murdered by other forces, that seems to me not connected with reality. I mean, that's something that Erica has said. That's something TPUSA has said. Like that seems like a pretty good, easy rule of thumb. That if you're spending all your days doing that, if you even tangentially are doing that, seems if you're trying to divide them. Matt, I thought that what you said when Charlie died was right. That one of Charlie's goals was to keep the movement together. It's obviously something JD is trying to do. He's trying to keep people in the room together. I totally get it. I've talked publicly about the fact that Tucker called me that day, 2 days after Charlie was shot, and said, like, let's stop fighting. And I said, you know what? That sounds great to me. That's fine. I really don't want to be fighting with you, because obviously we have other priorities. In fact, I even offered Tucker that we should get on stage together and talk about the things that we agreed with. He has yet to take me up on that offer. But the bottom line here is that, when it comes to where you set limits at some point are going to have to be set. And it seems to me that the move on the right is that because we don't like the left at all, because the left is bad, there must be no limit set, and any attempt to set a limit is somehow firing inside the tent. And what this actually leads to is many of the same people who are firing inside the tent then turning around and claiming that you're violating the truce. Because I'll tell you what, it's Nick Fuentes who's attacking Donald Trump on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It is Alex Jones who's attacking Donald Trump on a regular basis. I mean, it is Tucker Carlson who's attacking Donald Trump on a fairly regular basis, actually.
That's right.
So,
And
This is a very interesting point. and we can see this on the far left too, but you can definitely see it also here on the far right, is that there is this very stupid, naive notion of like, you got to let the tiger into bed with you because your enemies are afraid of the tiger. You can use it as a weapon. But that tiger, like, is not afraid of mauling you too. It's not afraid of fucking you up too. All these people, you see this on the far left and the far right, the moderates welcome them in, and then they have no qualms about attacking the more moderates of that side. They have no qualms whatsoever about attacking the power structures that exist at that side, which obviously makes sense from their perspective because they're trying to supplant those power structures. That is their goal. Their goal is to infiltrate the movement and supplant the pre-existing power structure. They're going to go in there and try to wreck shit. That is what their motivation is.
Yeah, they want to control the movement. Don't
Yeah.
take over the movement. It's
And
exactly the same thing happening on both sides.
And if you had told me right before it happened, said, Sitch, Charlie Kirk is going to be assassinated by a far left trans activist who's dating a trans person and is probably also a furry. Okay, if you told me that and then said, but a huge portion of the internet right is not going to believe this gift, this political gift that it was this far left person. They're instead going to pivot to actually it was the Jews, it was Turning Point USA, it was Israel, and this is all being covered up by the Trump administration. If you told me that that was going to happen, I would say there's no fucking way in hell that would ever happen.
Surprise!
That's impossible for that to ever happen. And yet, that's what we're looking at with the people that are completely following Candace Owens and Ian Carroll's claims about this whole situation.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, isn't it? That's the one
It
thing
is.
that's just baffling to me. They had such a political win on the side that it was some crazy leftist,
Yeah.
especially like in the trans furry movement or whatever. And it's completely been fumbled because the far right basically just destroyed it, destroyed the opportunity.
I wonder if there's like this feeling too, where a lot of people on the far right are actually so not afraid of the left. They're so not afraid of the left that they're willing to destroy that unity to seize power for themselves. Because if they were actually worried about the far left or even the left in general and felt they had to unify around it, I don't think that they would have attacked this narrative so quickly and so readily.
Yeah, that's a good point. They want to seize power. They don't want the right to seize power when they're out of power in their own coalition. So
Yes.
if the left, the more power the left gets, the more power the far right has. They know the score. They know that the far left is the one sending them recruits.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's true. It benefits them that the left is crazy.
Yeah, as soon as
100%.
the far left is put in its place, who's next on the docket?
And it was kind of interesting for Ben to say that, he had this private conversation with Tucker where they wanted to bury the hatchet and have some sort of public talk, and that hasn't really moved forward. And I thought, wouldn't that harm Tucker a lot? If Tucker had a conversation with Ben Shapiro that was very nice and amicable, wouldn't that completely harm Tucker Carlson? Wouldn't his audience be very mad at him for that?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. You think he's got a huge anti-Semite contingency in his audience?
Well,
that
it's
hate
not
Ben Shapiro because he's Jewish and always wears a yarmulke.
I guess I should clarify because I didn't mean it that way. I mean, I do think that there are Tucker fans that are that, but it's more, the majority of Tucker fans who are not, believe in the Jewish question, they're just very much against supporting Israel. They're very much against neoconservatism and like any of these foreign entanglements. At least they say they are. And Ben Shapiro has become sort of this symbolic figure on the internet right to
of supporting Israel.
Yeah, of not only just supporting Israel, but being like the old guard Republican in their minds.
So, right, and they want to move past that.
Right, and it's kind of like
ditch all the boomer Republicans.
Yes, exactly.
They're like, it's our time now.
Exactly.
Move over.
Exactly. It's like when, Tucker Carlson had the very highly contentious conversation with Ted Cruz. Like I feel like Tucker would have to have a conversation like that with Ben Shapiro to sort of maintain his position at the moment. Dr. Adam Refriended Brigadier General, thanks so much for the $40. Says, to be honest, today's left versus right or liberal versus conservative divide is just bad labeling. Both sides come from the same root. John Locke's liberalism versus Rousseau's liberalism, fighting each other for nearly 400 years. Even today, we're just seeing versions of Locke's liberalism fighting each other. True right-wing politics hasn't existed since the Enlightenment and the fall of traditional systems that ruled for thousands of years. Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's an interesting
Definitely.
point. Well, they're trying to bring it back, though. Definitely trying to bring it back. Phantom Morality for $10 says, responding to the one chatter, I rebounded 3 days after my last relationship. 2 years later, found a great girl. Don't hold back in finding love, but be picky on who you choose to love. Good advice.
Very good.
Plantation Sensation for $20 says, I was thrown out of the DC No Kings protest. Oh, no. I didn't debate, antagonize, or speak rudely. I only asked, why are you protesting? Why do you feel this way? I was called a fascist undercover Fed. These people live in a fantasy. Yeah, it's very,
They
it
do.
is always funny when people that go out to protest and make, noise and all this other stuff turn out to be the most like sensitive, brittle people ever.
This is the best thing from Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind, where he talks about the shared moral delusion and that how moral communities are really built on this shared view of reality, and that reality can often diverge from actual reality by quite some margin without the people even being aware of that. So,
right. Brian for $20 says, I like this friendly fire format the Daily Wire is doing. Matt is too extreme, but an open dialogue with Ben and others is a great way to moderate and put those guardrails while allowing space to discuss. I agree completely.
is the Daily Wire going under? I saw some articles saying the Daily Wire was having trouble, but now this live stream they're talking about, it's been 10 years and we're going to go another 10 years. So
yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. It was weird that right before where I started, they talked about how they've been around for 10 years, and they had a bunch of different clips of people congratulating them for being around for 10 years. Like they had Megyn Kelly and a bunch of other people. And it was kind of funny because they had right at the top of it was Tim Pool warmly congratulating the Daily Wire for being around 10 years. And I just saw a clip of Tim Pool very dismissively, dishonestly mocking Ben Shapiro's take in this conversation.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh,
yeah.
It struck me as like, oh, what is so weird? He's like, congratulations for being around 10 years, and then turns around his own show and just shit talks. So I was like, okay.
It's funny. They obviously Ben Shapiro was talking about Candace Owens with the craziness around Charlie Kirk.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
And vague posting about Candace Owens. He didn't actually mention her.
I believe they mention her specifically later, but
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't mention her in that section, but they do a 10-year retrospective video, and they kind of make fun of Candace Owens in that, which is kind of funny.
Oh, really?
How she joins. Yeah. She's like, she joined the Daily Wire, and then she left the group chat. Like she just one day was like, fuck all of you.
Right.
Left the group chat. So I don't know how I mean, obviously she left the Daily Wire, but I'm assuming it wasn't amicable.
No, it was definitely 100% was not amicable. And they have responsibility for that. They have responsibility for helping blow up Candace's popularity.
Big time. Yeah. Although Kanye was the first to really give her a boost.
Yes.
Because Kanye came out and said, oh, I really like Candace Owens. And that was like, whoa. Obviously Kanye is huge.
Right.
So I think she feels indebted to him in a way that only Hitler would understand.
I think she agrees with everything he was saying. So.
Or she did long enough to gain a giant platform. Have you seen the thing that's going around now about how she scammed her landlord out of 6 months free rent?
No, what was that?
Really? Oh, I'll send you a link to it.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh my God. I've never scammed a landlord out of 6 months free rent. That's something I couldn't even imagine doing. So
that's interesting because And I guess I'd be curious to see the specifics because I always wonder with her, like how much is like her
The
grifting and lying
grift.
and how
Oh
much is her
yeah.
just being delusionally insane. And she's scamming people out of money. That makes me think, oh, okay, well, then she knows she's just full of shit at that point.
Yeah. Totally full of shit.
Valve and Go for $20 says violence on law enforcement that goes unpunished, destruction of cities as a result of your own displeasure. This isn't the behavior of people who lost or are losing. These are the actions of a side who has already won. But that doesn't, I don't even know how you could say that. I don't even know how you could say that when that side lost and is losing more and more power every day, every second. I assume you're talking about the BLM stuff. So
Well, they do have some presence that's embedded in government institutions that's really hiding from the Trump administration. But I don't know how you can't say that the Trump administration is working diligently to weed those partisans out. I mean, everything they're doing is basically
right,
looking for those types of people and kicking them out.
I would say it's actually the complete opposite of what you're saying. I think a big reason there wasn't a lot of, or there wasn't any, I don't think there wasn't any rioting or anything that happened after Charlie Kirk was killed was because Donald Trump's the president. The Republicans have complete political power over the federal system. So people had confidence that, the people that did the crime would be held accountable and that the government would do the right thing. Rioting is when people feel like the government is not holding their best interests at heart, whether they're right or wrong about it. Obviously, BLM, I think they're completely fucking wrong about that. So I see it as it's the complete opposite of that. Now, in terms of the violence against law enforcement, I don't think that's really just more the insanity of an ideology being promoted that allows a blind eye or even an intentional turning towards political violence on your side, which we see a lot in Portland. Though obviously you can throw the whataboutism in terms of the pardoning of all the January 6 people. Win Traveler for $20 says the Kirk assassination has created an unprecedented mandate to finally go after dangerous leftist rhetoric. We should all be very suspicious of anyone trying to undermine that while claiming to be on the right. That's an interesting point. I mean, I think you're right. And it has, if anything good has come out of it, it has given Trump and the Republicans the energy and the mandate to actually go after Antifa and all these violent leftist organizations that definitely need to be disbanded and looked after and to be arrested if they're doing illegal things.
The conversation about dangerous rhetoric, though, just completely changed when so many people started coming out and blaming Israel and Jewish people for the assassination. Because how can you make the argument that you shouldn't be calling people on the right who are just moderate political adversaries, fascists, when they're coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, the Jews are behind this."
Right.
Like, what the fuck?
Right.
How do you defend those people? You're like, oh well, maybe they are fascists.
Like, ask Matt Walsh. It really destroys their credibility too, because then it just everyone says, "Oh, okay, we were right." Right? The left says we were right about the right the whole time.
Yeah, calling them fascists. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're digging in. They're saying, look, they were fascists. Like, Justice 35. It's like, look, they were fascists. I'm saying it for 40 years. You guys are wrong.
And I think that the friendly fire should stop across the board, and I've been very clear about that.
You mean the show, not just that.
I think that the show.
That's getting late.
But let me so the two things. Number one, just on your point, Ben, about who killed Charlie Kirk. I've been very clear about it. This was clearly this was leftist violence, and we should stay focused on that. I think we're letting them off the hook when we try to blame anybody else other than the left. This was leftist violence for sure. Does that mean that anyone who feels differently should be drummed out of the movement? No, I don't think so. And I also think that it's like we're not even in a position to decide who should be a leader, who should have a platform, who should be getting attention in this movement. It's like that's not up to us to decide anyway.
Well, no, but it's up to a decision. It's up to us.
Hang on a second. Let me just say.
When he says that it's not up to us, which is some partially true.
Bullshit.
Well, it's partially true because a lot of this is like bottom up, like people, support people and stuff, right? Now you can have sway over your audience by denouncing people or trying to pull away from people too. So you can't just throw your hands up. But when he says that, to me, it sounds like he's basically advocating for, well, Candace Owens is popular. These other people, Ian Carroll popular. So, we just have to go along with it. Like that's how it reads to me when he says that in this context.
It's just every single one of these people and anyone with a platform has the ability to endorse someone in a way. It's not a celebrity endorsement, obviously, but it's kind of in the same ballpark as a celebrity endorsement, right? You're saying,
Right.
I'm vouching for this person. So to say that they don't really have that ability, I mean, Matt Walsh does have that ability, right? Yes. Obviously, we talked about Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro having a conversation. That would be somewhat of an endorsement of him by Tucker Carlson. He could do that, even though his audience probably would object to it.
Right.
But that would change the dynamic of the situation. Some people who might object to it might be won over. Some people might leave. Things might change.
I'm glad you said that. Because it made me realize something, which is there's always this very bizarre one-sidedness of the nature of this. Not just in terms of like, okay, the more moderate people saying we should allow the extremists into our movement, and then the extremists keep attacking the moderates. And it's like, oh, the moderates aren't supposed to attack the extremists, right? But there's also, it's the same thing in terms of endorsements, because you're right. Like, I think if Tucker Carlson or any of these people were more like, hey, why, like, shouldn't they be on the position of don't attack the right, don't attack Ben Shapiro, don't attack any of these people? Like, why should Matt Walsh be giving these people infinite charity to say, well, we can't attack these people, we can't denounce them, if those people aren't going to do the same for any of them?
Exactly, yeah. If they're not going to send an endorsement your way, why the fuck are you endorsing them?
Right. And it really all to me just reads as everyone's so afraid of their audience today. It's so fascinating. We really used to live in a world where people looked at it like there's this top-down structure of gatekeeping and they control the information and they drag the audience by the nose and they, manipulate everyone's thoughts and feelings. And now it just really feels like that's been completely turned on its head, that there's this audience out there that the commentators are just terrified of. They're just so terrified of this audience and losing it. And if the audience starts to go in some direction, they just have to ride the wave. They have to go with the audience.
Yeah, because they want to grow a larger and larger audience. So
yes,
at some point, you really have to play that game if you're going to grow a large audience.
But it's also really bad too, because it trains people in these audiences to be incredibly fickle. Because that's another part that never has this conversation is, well, why shouldn't the audiences, like, why the audiences?
Where's their loyalty?
Not just loyalty, but why aren't they like, okay, well, we can disagree. I can like Ben Shapiro. I mean, some people are like this, but a lot of people aren't. So some people could be like, oh, I like Ben Shapiro when he, on some issues, I like Tucker Carlson on other issues. I'm not going to like choose sides between them, right? That's not really, doesn't seem like that's what happens. It seems like the audiences themselves self-train themselves to be very like all or nothing. Someone says something that you disagree with and you just turn on them very violently and stop listening to them or following them or whatever.
Tribalism is a fun game for people. It really is. So they really want to find some sort of context where they can engage against other groups.
Yeah. And I also wonder if a lot of it's just because there's so much variety to choose from that it makes people more picky. It's kind of like people talk about this in the dating sphere with women, that since women have such power to choose to select a person on a dating app, it allows them, and this just happens to everyone, it's not just women, that psychologically it makes you more and more and more picky because you have such power over the options of what you consume, what you look at, who you date, or women do, and that's in that example. And I wonder if it's kind of the same thing with a lot of audiences when it comes to listening to commentators, because there's so many of them. You have such power to just be very picky and to pick and choose. And the second someone says something you don't like, you can just, throw them away.
They've done this test in different psychological contexts. It's like if there's an overwhelming number of choices, people tend to buy less than if there's no choices, if there's just one, people tend to buy less. It's like the medium number. It's like 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, because people get overwhelmed.
where people are like,
yeah.
Yeah.
After Charlie died, okay, a couple of days after Charlie died, I put out a tweet where I said that I want to call a truce. I can only do it on my end. I want to call a truce. I want to extend an olive branch to everybody on my side, everybody on the right. Okay, everybody to the right of Bill Maher. I want, including him. Not that I ever had really a beef with him, but I want to extend a truce because we are dealing with a threat. We are dealing, Drew, you said it yourself. These are people, like, the political violence is on one side. This is on one side. There is one side that engages in political violence. There is one side that, like, rejects the basic realities of life. There's one side that's responsible for murdering 60 million babies in this country. Okay, it's one side. And so I think that for right now, maybe we'll get back to the arguments. Maybe we'll get back to the infighting. We'll get back to that in the future, I'm sure. But for right now, I think we need to be unified against this threat, especially now, especially with the midterms coming up and the presidential election right after that. The left, if they get back into control, they're going to be out for blood even more than they ever have been. And so we need to be united against that together. And that's what I said. When I said that a couple days after Charlie's death, you know the response I got? Almost every single comment I got was yes, amen, absolutely, I'm with you. Almost every single comment. I said the exact same thing like 2 days ago, and it completely flipped. Now almost every single comment is, how could you say this? I can't unite with them. There's no way. I can't do that. And it's just, I haven't changed. What I'm saying is no different than what I said a month ago. I haven't changed. I don't think the situation has changed at all. And I don't know why everything else has flipped.
It's such a fascinating thing because it's true that he hasn't changed, but that the way in which people interpreted his words changed dramatically. Because when he said it after, because like when he says it after Charlie Kirk, people are thinking, okay, what are you talking about? Like, there's all these radical people on the far left that were praising this, and you know, we need to unify against that, and blah blah blah. And most of those people, they don't perceive that as Matt Walsh saying, well, we need to unify with the white nationalists. We need to unify with the Groypers. We need to unify with the monarchists. We need to unify with like the far right extremists against the left. They didn't perceive it that way. Even if Matt Walsh meant it, they didn't perceive it that way because for a lot of people, that was outside of their wheelhouse of acceptability. That wasn't even like a thought process that crossed their mind.
Yeah, he wasn't even insinuating that.
Yeah, right. They didn't perceive that at all. Right. Now I perceive that that's what Matt Walsh meant, and I turned out to be totally correct because then when the group chat comes out and he says the exact same thing, the context is completely different because the context is, well, wait a minute, you have people talking about like Nazi shit. So now you understand the context. The context is more clear. And all these people turn against him like, what are you talking about? We can't side with people, whatever. And it makes me feel good. I definitely feel I definitely feel happy feelings if a lot of people are pushing on the right are pushing back against Matt Walsh, saying that in terms of that context. And it's because, yeah, you didn't change, Matt. You said the same thing. People just didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah. Also the context of a bunch of people coming out and blaming it on Israel.
Yes.
That completely flipped the context as well.
Yeah,
so
of course.
You're like, well, hold on. How are we supposed to unite when you've got all these people who are not even engaging in the activity that you said we should all engage in?
Well, and also this is what's kind of, and again, I don't know exactly what his motivation is here, but this is why what he's suggesting is completely insane and actually impossible. How can the right unify with people like Candace Owens, who are blaming the right for killing Charlie Kirk in the first place? She's saying that it was some sort of internal conspiracy by Turning Points USA, by right-wing Jews, that Turning Point USA is covering up, that the Trump administration is covering up. If that's the accusation, how could you possibly unify with that? Because she's saying the call's coming from you guys. You are the problem. And you're like, well, I'm going to unify with a person who's saying I murdered somebody? Like, doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it's interesting here that he says his initial point was that everyone to the right of Bill Maher, including Bill Maher, should unite against the left. It's very fascinating that he says that because in his post, he doesn't use Bill Maher as the dividing line because Bill Maher still is on the left. Bill Maher still identifies on the left. He did not use Bill Maher as a defining line. And actually, when I went to his, I don't know, maybe he did in a video, I never saw it, but when I went to his Twitter page where he put the post, and I typed in like Bill Maher to see the last time he even mentioned Bill Maher. He hasn't even mentioned Bill Maher in 2 years. So I do think if he had said, and it's interesting he's saying it here now in this conversation, this debate, because it changes the context even more completely. If he had said in his X post, like everyone to the right of Bill Maher, including Bill Maher, I think the response would have been very different, because people have been like, oh, okay, well, he's not throwing all the left in one sphere. He's just kind of drawing a line here between, the woke and the not woke, or the people that are pro murder and not pro murder.
Maybe.
Because I think
they were talking about not unifying with people on the far right, though, right? In his context.
Right. But I'm just saying the fact that he's now saying he would even be willing to unify with people on the left, like Bill Maher, which he didn't, I never heard him say that before this conversation. And he didn't say that in his X post.
I don't know his thinking on Bill Maher. For all I know, he thinks Bill Maher is center right now.
Because I think if you take that to its full extent, it's crazy. It works within a context, but surely there is some kind of human decency level that you can cross where no, you're not on my side. I mean, I don't understand why, if you support the cat's paw of Iran, where they sit around and chant death to America, what makes you a conservative? What makes you a conservative? That you say tough sounding things? I mean, that you talk in a loud voice about the problems of the country. I don't know. What makes you a conservative if you are in favor of a regime that, used to have, until Trump took it away, the capacity to actually hurt us?
Shots fired at Dave Smith.
I don't understand the anti-American.
It's true, right? Look, Dave Smith was all calling Trump a terrorist for bombing Iran.
Yep.
Why the fuck does Dave Smith care about Iran? He cares more about Iran's liberty than he cares about America's liberty.
Of course. And
so
you're not very mad about it too.
I would say you're not on our side. You're not a conservative if you are not interested in conserving and preserving and defending Western civilization. And I guess the one point I'll give in
and that's annoying too, because then
fuck.
What does that mean? He gives this incredibly vague statement: preserving Western civilization. Well, first of all, how does that not completely
Tucker, Candace is gone.
Right, but how does that not completely align with what Andrew Klavan said? Obviously, being against Iran would be preserving Western civilization, would it not?
Definitely, yeah.
And there's all these, what does that even mean? Because there are some people on the far right that they openly say that they're against Western civilization because they equate that with liberalism and democracy. But there are a lot of people on the far right who don't say that. And they're like, no, we need to preserve Western civilization by, becoming white ethno-nationalists. That's the only way to preserve it.
Yeah.
So when people are very unclear with their speech, it's always a sign that they're hiding something.
In your favor, Drew and Ben, is that I do think that there are some people who claim to be conservatives who actually are not interested in conserving Western civilization at all. Right. And so if you don't want to conserve that, then we're just not. We actually are fundamentally, because that's the thing I'm saying we need to unite to defend is Western civilization. And
but for example, civilization, that has to mean something, right?
Yes, right. So for example, in recently I've been talking about the Islamic takeover of Dearborn, and I've had people who I guess claim to be conservatives who are trying to tell me that actually this is a very good thing, that our country becomes Islamic. And it's like, okay, we're clearly not on the same side. This you're trying to conserve Islamism, and that is not what I'm trying to conserve. So obviously you get to a point where lines are drawn, and I think the line is at conserving and defending Western civilization. And anyone who's on board with that and wants to do that, I think we should work together. But if someone says, I'm not interested, I don't want your olive branch, screw you, which I have gotten that response from a lot of people, well, then that's your choice, and we got to.
I just don't want us to make the decision. I don't want to make the decision on who's defending Western civilization according to popularity. I don't think that's the right way to do this.
This has all been very fun. I mean, truly, truly enjoyable. But Matt, I need you to talk to us about how you sleep at night.
Hold on, I got a better
How do you
transition. Let me
sleep
do
at
the
night?
transition.
How the
I got a
hell
better
do you
one.
sleep at night? That's
I got a better one. So, hey, we've been talking about who it would be prudential for us to get in bed with politically. Now, Matt, would you tell us about how you get into bed? Well, that was a much better transition.
I don't know. I thought Ben's was better, to be honest.
What?
I got
What are you, I worked
get
on
that one
that whole segment. I was working.
He had to
So-
go in the gay direction. Michael Knowles did. That's why Matt
That's
was
why he
turned
got-
off. Matt was
That's why
like,
he got
"What?"
triggered. Yeah. So this is the end of the conversation. Though Matt Walsh does go, he almost goes. He saves it. He saves it at the end, but he almost goes full Bill O'Reilly here in the ad read.
Yeah. Let me tell you about this. I'm going to do it very organically. This isn't even an ad read. There's no text here. It's just prompts. You guys are throwing this at me. I don't usually get. I'm like
Don't you have
remedial
a
when it
Helix
comes
mattress?
to. I'm remedial when it comes to ad reads. So they always just give me exactly what they want me to say. And now I'm looking at this. It says, "Tell your audience about your experience with Helix mattresses." Okay. Well, okay, fine. Let's not.
So awkward. But okay. I was listening
Hilarious.
to Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter conversation. And I never heard Glenn Lowry do an ad read before. It was for Ground News. It's the worst ad read I've ever heard in my entire life.
I had already
I-
fast forwarded at this point, so I didn't hear any of this.
It was so I was like, I like Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter. I like their conversations a lot. It was about about like Charlie Kirk and about the conversation between Ezra Klein and Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I could not believe how awful it was. The worst ad read I've ever heard in my entire life from Glenn Lowry. I was like, Glenn, what are you doing? At least try. Someone's paying you for this, at least, or just don't take the ad read if you're not going to even try. Oh God, it was so bad. Up. Okay. Okay. Let me read the super
Are
chats
we-
here from the top.
But we're
That's the
done with
end
the
of this-
conversation. Good.
Yeah, they don't talk. They don't come back to they go to a different subject. So.
Yeah.
El Caliso for 28 months says, you guys should watch more Andrew Clavin. He's a bit boring and old. He makes great observations. I don't know if you'll like his prescriptions, though. I don't think I've ever seen an Andrew Clavin video outside of when he's been in these group conversations. So
Shu
Yeah, we'll
says,
check it out.
use code SHOE, SHOE, on groundnews.com. Do you get, hopefully she gets some cred for that. So
there you go. Look, if you want to
Sign
use
up.
Ground News, use code SHOE, everybody. We need to get a Ground News sponsor. Everyone and their mother has a Ground News sponsor, Adam. Why are we left
or
out
some VPN.
here? Yeah, come on.
We're not big enough.
Even
I did ask Actual Justice Warrior one time. I'm like, you do a bunch of ad reads. Like, what do we have to do? And
I can basically guarantee you that we could probably get Ground News sponsored if we asked.
Oh, really?
They give it to everybody. Every channel on YouTube is. I don't even know how their ad budget must be massive.
Think how we're avoiding all the controversy when it comes out that Ground News basically steals all your ad revenue.
You think it's going to be a honey
At the
situation? There's some
last-
secret
at the
cookie
last end
hidden
of the
within
sale,
Ground
yeah.
News somewhere. Yeah,
I
don't think
always
so.
worry about that. I always
Right.
think,
Right.
can you imagine?
I don't think so. I've used it a couple times. It seemed like it was good, so I should probably use it more.
Shu says they're great and very nice. Well,
Look
that's
at
cool.
that. Look at that. We need to talk them up, Adam, so we get a sponsorship. Stop it. Stop.
Nobody wants
hype
to.
it.
Nobody wants to sponsor us.
Look at this
Come
guy.
on.
Look at this guy. Sketch for 39 months says, how hard do I pronounce the F in fuck Nick Fuentes? Deep inhale. Fuck. YouTube said there will be no swears on their Christian server.
Well, you can swear. What are you talking about?
Here, you're allowed to swear as much as you want. Martin Cordy for 23 months says, thoughts on Van Halen? S team versus A team is a lie. Keep up the good work.
I used to really like Van Halen, so. But how about you? I liked Van Halen with David Lee Roth singing, so I think they might have had a different singer before David Lee Roth came in. That was kind of before my time.
I like some of the Van Halen guitar solos. Beyond like a lot of the guitar solos of that era, which I always liked those sort of guitar solos and stuff.
Oh yeah,
The
Van
70s and
Halen's
80s.
great.
Yeah, sort of guitar solos. And all the scale dancing and all that stuff. I always like that stuff, but I just don't really like a lot of 70s, 80s rock music beyond that.
You can
I
listen
was
to
much
Iron Maiden,
more,
Ronnie James Dio,
no,
Black
I mean,
Sabbath.
listen, I'm a 90s kid. I grew up in a much harder, era of like metal, of like actual like deep metal. Okay.
You're not going to die
Deep,
with your boots on?
dark, heavy metal. All
Come
right.
on. You're not going
Metalocalypse
to go on
level,
the flight of
like
the Icarus?
screamo metal. Okay. So,
I do think you should die with your boots on. I mean, if
okay.
you're going to die.
Okay. Ralt of Givia for 29 months. Thank you so much. Says, what's up, fellow Redditors? Just want to get in a quick and say he's such a TDS. He's got real bad boys. Stage 420. Send thoughts and prayers. Well, thank you, Ralt.
Stage 420. Oh my God. That's the worst. You need to load up immediately. That's the only way to fight it.
Right. Noah Screaming to the Void for $5 says, please evaluate a story by talking to more people, discussing and finding out what actually happened. Don't call for action until after that. Yeah, I think that's totally
words
fair.
to live by.
That's very fair.
I always have so much shit going on. It's like, do I really have time to know everything about this story to know if it's accurate or not?
But part of the issue too is like the current news cycle is that since everything's so quick, there's people, and I think they're wrong to do this, but people often feel like there's no time to read a story, to reflect on it, to actually have a thought about it, to reach out to the subjects on it. There's just this, you got to react. You got to be the first person to react. You got to hit the algorithm, with your, you got to hit the algorithm with your legs running to really take off. So the Oceanist for $10 says tankies and groypers becoming more popular. Sad. I saw a survey today that showed that 60% of Democrats viewing socialism as a good thing now. I now know people who I thought were normies posting Nick Fuentes clips. Jesus Christ. This is what I'm worried about. This is what I'm worried about. You have all these people viewing socialism positively, and Nick Fuentes becoming more and more mainstream is pretty terrifying. So
Nick has a real all-American vibe about him that I think if you don't see him ranting about black people and Jewish people, then you don't know. You think, oh, this guy's just a normal American conservative.
Yep. That's true. That's the problem. Yeah.
It is the problem.
Yeah.
Nobody has time for that.
But that's why you need the mainstream right that those people would presumably listen to say, no, fuck that guy. That guy's, crazy. It's a piece of shit. Brian for $5 says, don't unify around your crazies. It's the perfect bumper sticker talking point. Very true. David K for 38 months says, these last months have blackpilled me and brought into focus the problem. We have slipped into a society of the extremes, and it's only going to get worse.
No, it's going to get better.
Not,
no.
But
we're getting close. We're getting closer and closer and closer.
You think it's going to get better?
Yeah. I think the culture war is going to end. I told you it's going to end by at the latest 2033, but it could end much sooner than that.
Well, if the economy crashes, I feel like that could be a very big catalyst for things to get worse culturally.
Why wouldn't that be a catalyst for things to get better?
Because if it crashes, everyone's going to point the fingers, try to look to who's to blame. And instead of actually figuring out who's to blame, they just point to the people they want to blame. So, it's the capitalists, the Jews, it's whoever, it makes everyone more radicalized as things get, as their money situation and their living conditions get worse and worse and worse.
Do you think Trump is the kind of president that would do anything within his power to fix it?
Yeah.
And maybe even some things outside his power to fix it?
Yeah.
I mean, the right man for the times, right?
Yeah, I guess. But the question is, would they do the actual thing that helps? And I'm not so sure about that. So
yeah, that's what I worry about, is that they will do whatever they can to fix it, but they're going to do the wrong things just because they have the wrong model of the world.
Right.
I don't know.
Like I have no clue what's going on with Trump again flip-flopping on Russia and Ukraine.
Did
We
he flip flop
finally
again? Oh my God! Please
we
say it isn't so.
finally thought that Trump had awakened from the hypnotism that Putin seems to throw on him and every president before him.
Putin
He
gave
finally
another late
was,
night call.
yeah, he was finally awake to the fact that Putin's just jerking him around and that he's never gonna be this partner for peace and blah 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 blah. And then I don't know, he has some phone call with Putin recently. It seems like he's gone right back to where he was. So, and supposedly now again, this is just reported. I don't know. Maybe it's not true, but this is just sort of anonymous sources all claiming that his meeting with Zelensky did not go very well. So
Was it a private meeting?
it was a private meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sucks. That totally sucks. What's going on with the broken ceasefire? Seems like Israel did some bombing or something and Trump whipped him back into shape.
I'm not sure. I haven't really been following
Oh, okay.
that. So
Trump is so eager to get the peace there. So,
he is. I think he's eager to get peace in both places.
oh yeah, yeah. He wants
Which,
to be remembered as a peacetime president.
though I don't know because if this
Peacemaking
whole
president. That's it.
right, but at the same, that's what I'm a little confused because yeah, I thought he was really gunning for the Nobel Peace Prize. He really wanted to be the peace president. But if this whole thing with Venezuela keeps escalating into some sort of military action, it's gonna really destroy any of that narrative instantly.
We're going to war with Venezuela?
I don't fucking know what we're doing with Venezuela. We'll see.
What's the beef with Venezuela?
They're they're sending us their drugs, Adam.
Oh, well, I mean, bombing their drug cartels is different than going to war with a country.
Well, yeah, it would be, except in terms of is this the question everyone has in their mind is this going to escalate into some sort of regime change operation, which on its face would seem like an insanely stupid thing to do, especially because Trump really ran against those sorts of entanglements foreignly, and it seems like his base is very against those entanglements foreignly in foreign countries. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I guess. We'll see what happens.
RBGH fan for $10 says hierarchies based on identity instead of merit will always lead to societal decay. There are no coherent rules. Legislators love wedge issues and they don't have to do anything but point and grandstand. That's completely true. That's completely true. And that's that.
Go ahead.
That's part of why I think wokeness was, there's many reasons, but that's part of why wokeness was so tempting to someone on the left was they didn't have politicians and legislators didn't have to do anything. They could just point to a bunch of bullshit like we're improving conditions for here's our law that says we won't discriminate against black people and women, even though that already was a law, and all they get all this applause. Oh, you're so good. You're so good. They don't have to actually show that they're doing anything worth value.
Yeah, it's crazy. Our brains as human beings do tend towards nepotism, helping out our friends and our political allies and that kind of thing. So you have to really fight hard against that. But the upside of meritocracy is just so high that it's good to fight against that.
Mm-hmm. Kristen Brandon
that's
for
something
$2.
that gets under your skin constantly, right? The nepotism, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Kristen Brandon for $2 says thoughts on Trump's release of George Santos.
What? He let
You know
George
about
Santos
this?
out? Did he really?
He did.
Wow.
He commuted George Santos's sentence. Yes.
He's a Democrat, right?
George Santos?
Was he a Democrat or Republican? I thought he was a Democrat.
I don't actually remember.
Well, I could be wrong.
I assumed it was Republican, but I could have been wrong. No, he was Republican.
Oh, he was a Republican. Okay.
Yeah. He was accused of, I believe, convicted and found guilty, which obviously he was because he was in jail for it, of of wire. No, it was wire fraud, wasn't it? He stole a bunch of people's money. He scammed a bunch of people out of money.
And Trump is
Santos pleaded guilty.
Recognizes game.
Santos pleaded guilty to identity theft and wire fraud. He was sentenced to 87 months in prison. Let's see. He was indicted on 13 charges, 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, 2 counts of making material false statements to the House of Representatives. So that would be the lying element of it. Says prosecutors accuse Santos of 3 distinct schemes: fraudulent solicitation of political contributions, unemployment benefits fraud, and making false statements on the financial disclosure reports he submitted to the House of Representatives. In the fraudulent solicitation scheme, Santos allegedly persuaded 2 supporters to donate $25,000 each to a limited liability company controlled by him, and then he used the money for personal expenses. So essentially, he was like, hey, donate to my campaign. And then they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And then he's like, psych, I'm using this for my trip to the Bahamas, baby.
Yeah, I'm totally against commuting his sins. So
Yeah.
obviously, if he's a scumbag and has stolen money from people, they should throw his ass in jail. The people who he stole the money from probably hate this.
Of course. He told them it was super PAC and the money would buy TV ads to support his campaign. But obviously they didn't go to that. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Santos also allegedly obtained a total of $24,000 in unemployment benefits from mid-2020 to April 2021 while drawing his annual salary of $120,000. So
this guy's just a psychopath.
So he was just like, oh, listen, guys, I need my COVID check, even though I have a job that's still paying. Let's see. I thought there was something else he did because it said I thought he owed a bunch of people money. Let's see. As part of his plea deal, Santos was ordered to pay nearly. Okay, so the amount must have been much higher than what that was saying. Because it says as part of his plea deal, he was ordered to pay nearly $374,000 in restitution to his victims, including campaign contributors. He stole he stole people's financial information too, and whose donations ultimately went to Santos's own bank account. So he stole people's information as well.
So did he pay the restitution? Did he get out of jail and he didn't even pay the restitution? I'm totally against that. Trump, what are you doing?
So he said today, or I guess was this today? No, this was a few days ago. He said a few days ago after Trump commuted his sentence, he said, quote, I don't have any pendencies with the law anymore. I have no restitution. I have no probation. So it sounds like he's saying he is not going to pay these people back now that Trump has commuted his sentence.
Yeah. Lame.
Why the fuck? Why did Trump commute his sentence here? This is completely insane.
Maybe you get paid him. A lot of times they sell pardons.
Right. Okay. This is completely insane. Really another further example of Trump destroying the right is tough on crime ideology here. So in the words of Voidzilla, crime is legal.
Plenty of Democratic presidents have sold pardons too, though. So it's not just but it does.
At least they have the decency,
Adam, about
to wait
tough
till
on crime stuff.
They have the decency to wait till they're about to leave office. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Pardon their son for the next 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. They wait till right before they're not to be president anymore, right?
And 20 years after.
It was funny. Yeah, exactly. Because it was interesting because there was this conversation about will Trump free Ghislaine Maxwell? I can't say her name. Ghislaine Maxwell. And he made some comment that was kind of like, he's not saying no. But there has been a lot of movement on that so far. I think that's something, if he does do that, would be something he would wait to do until the very end. Because if he did that during his presidency, I think that would really be opening a Pandora's box if he let her out. The Oceanist for $5 says the left is weird, though. They will align with far-right groups like Hamas. Maybe if the GOP rejects the Groypers, the left could pick them up. That's a great point. God's joke for $10 says, follow-up, I meant get back to dating. My shoulder therapist is cute and single. Should I ask her out? Worried she might be put off by the fact that I broke up semi-recently with my ex. You should ask her out. Yes.
Well, look, my read of the situation is if she's interested, she will not care. And if she's not interested, she might use that as an excuse.
Ooh.
But you shouldn't, if she does use that excuse, you shouldn't think, okay, well, some other girl is not going to be interested either. I should wait because I'm going to get the same response, because it's probably just an excuse. Like if you are into someone or if someone is into you, they'll make 100 excuses to date you.
Yes.
It's just the chemistry is there. It's right. The attraction's there. Really, the attraction is all that matters. So,
well, for the initial, yeah.
Of course, yeah, of course. Well, the obviously men tend more towards physical attraction. I think women can find a guy attractive who is physically unattractive because they expand that attractiveness to personality. And if you're funny, if you've got a good heart, obviously kindness goes a long way towards women. You don't want to be a doormat, obviously, but yeah. So men are in better shape that way, which I think, like online, a lot of guys think it's just, obviously, it's all physical attractiveness, which I think is just bullshit.
No, it's I can see that in the realms of like with a lot of the dating apps and stuff.
Oh yeah, but
yeah, if you're just looking
get out
at
in the real
pictures and
world.
shit,
Look, obviously,
Sure,
you're talking about someone you've been in the room with.
it changes the variable significantly to be more normal, actually.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Like a lot of girls don't want to do dating apps because they're like, oh well, all these guys on the dating apps are lying anyway. And if they've
Right.
got some sort of physical relationship with, well, not physical as in having sex, but like they know you in the real world, some IRL relationship with you, then they know, like, they've basically weeded out any possible lies you could be telling.
Yeah, they know you're not a serial killer or an uggo or whatever, a creep. So
yeah, they know what they're getting.
Yep.
So yes,
to some extent.
you should definitely. But that's a tricky. I mean, if you have a business relationship with her, that's a tough situation because I don't know if you're like, if she's an ex-business relationship, because the business relationship could go south, obviously, if she's not interested.
Yeah, if you say no, and then you have to keep going back to her for shoulder therapy, it could be a little awkward, right?
Yeah, and look, she may say, well, I want to keep this guy's business, so I'll just go out to coffee with him, but I'm really not interested. So
that's all you need, Adam. You just need to open the door. All right.
Well, look, I mean,
worm your way in there.
I mean, I have pursued girls until I've broken down their defenses. And they're crazy about me. Sometimes they get too crazy.
Oh, look at this. Look at this.
But look, that's not for the faint of heart. You could get there's a lot of rejection involved in that path. And also I don't want to send the wrong message here. There's a point when you break it off. Like, you don't want to go stalker. No, you never want to go full stalker, right? But
Obviously.
you can be a little persistent, right?
I don't know. I feel like nowadays you cannot. This is part of the problem.
You can't be persistent at all because you're gonna.
I feel like there's zero. Yeah, I feel like guys today cannot be remotely persistent. That's like, if you ask someone out and they say no, then
that's so fucking lame. That's so lame. Well, look, it's a completely different situation now. Back when I was dating, it was like girls didn't have infinite options. Okay,
exactly.
You were like one of maybe a half dozen options a girl had. So you're like, I'm a better option than any of those suckers. Come on. So persistence helped back then, but
yeah, of course. I even had, it was funny. This was years ago. There was some girl that I asked out and she turned me down. I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a month later, I get a drunk call from her. She's like, why didn't you pursue me?
Yeah, see, look, there you go.
I was like, what? This was like, I don't know, this was a long time ago. And we did end up going out for a while, but I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what are you doing? Like, turn me down. What am I supposed to do? Like, grovel at your feet? What do you want from me?
If I could, I always had the attitude that if I can get them just to hang out with me just enough, they'll see like how charming and interesting I am. Because look, I always had things going on. I always been interested in reading books, and like I always painted, like I always had various projects going on. I did some sculpture at times. So I mean, I had a lot of shit going on, and women definitely like people who are motivated, who have
That's
a
true.
lot of motivation to like do something, whatever it is. So once I was around them long enough, I thought, oh, I can hook this person.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Girls eat
They'll
up art.
see the intrigue.
Girls suck up art. They eat that shit up. They eat up music.
Oh,
Can
they
play an
do.
instrument.
They do.
You trick 'em.
I had a giant mural in my apartment that I was working
Trick 'em.
on that I
Yeah.
had set up on this pulley system. So it was just like rolled up along the ceiling. But
Right.
if I dropped that painting down, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to work for a little bit. They'd be like, swoon, swoon. Oh my
Yeah.
God. This guy has like a 20-foot painting.
Yes. Yes. It's funny.
Yes.
It's interesting. I don't know
I
why.
still have that painting too. That
Yeah.
painting's pretty badass. So.
Yep.
Yes. Look, it's a completely different world now, though, because I think women are obsessed with social media. So I would probably drop that painting now, and they'd be like, "How many Instagram followers do you have?"
That's you know what? Oh, that's fucked up. Yeah. They'd be like,
They'd
wow,
be like, "Oh, this piece of shit."
how popular is your art on the gram?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I
It's
take a
funny
picture next to your art piece and will people care?
my wife and I go to different museums and stuff like that, and I'm always looking at art, and I always say my tag phrase is tired old shit. I'm like, look at this fucking tired old shit. And I walk around and I'm like, 3 likes, 8 likes.
You really say
I do, yeah.
Oh
Because
my
I'm just like,
God.
look, that would be get nothing on Instagram.
Mhm.
That'd be like pass.
Look at this guy.
It's interesting though, because it is a different world. Like the art world is run obviously by a bunch of condescending snobs. So
Like you.
no, like you.
Oh, okay. I'm not the one walking around museums like, listen, when I went to see the Salvador Dali exhibit, I didn't walk around like 3 likes, 5 likes.
I'm speaking for the everyman though.
Oh,
That's why it would get 8 likes, because people, the general public would be like, what the fuck is this shit? Right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Salvador Dali Museum is different. I'm sure there was a wide range of, obviously, the persistence of memory. Dali's most famous painting, the melting clocks.
Yeah.
I mean, that would get thousands of likes at least.
Would it?
Tens of thousands.
But people even like it now.
They'd be like, Salvador Dali's famous.
I like it, but I don't know if people like it.
Yeah. It's an interesting mental exercise to do, though. The world has fundamentally changed. I've been watching a lot of art videos lately because I'm painting more now, so I'm doing it. And so many of the people, I guess a lot of people just paint digitally and sell prints, like that's their model. And I think isn't having some sort of artifact, I mean, that's why it's called art, right? The original painting. Isn't that the driving force behind selling prints? And if you do like a digital, I mean, you don't really have an artifact, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah. Are the prints themselves are the artifact? Like I can do prints and sign them, but obviously signed prints, the prestige of the painting, I always figured is what drives the sale of the prints. But people keep, now that I post my shit on Twitter, people keep asking me if I'm doing prints, but I was like, the comic was fun to do, but shipping the comic out was not fun to do. So, I mean, I would rather do paintings and sell them for more money and ship those out to one person than do like a bunch of prints. But maybe I can figure out some drop shipping method for prints. I don't know. Anyway, super chats. What were we talking about? How do we get on this?
Duke Norton for $20 says to the guy that's trying to date, just go for it. If you think about everything that will go wrong, you'll never get anywhere. S class, the best class.
Don't let her know
True.
that you think S class is best class.
Let her know
'cause
that. That'll get
will
the
be-
women. That gets the women
That makes
wild
them
and wet.
swoon.
Okay. You say S class is the best class.
Say it just like that.
They just
and watch their eyes roll.
I know. It worked on Sammy. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
She jumped
You
right in
told
my
her S
lap.
class was best class.
I did. Yeah. But no, that is true. Yeah. You just want to you just want to jump in. You can't get paralyzed by the million possibilities. So
I mean, Sammy G perfectly makes my argument that if you can, because obviously she knew you because she's listened to hours and hours and
she
hours.
thought she knew me.
Oh, really? Showed her the real you.
She thought she knew me. Now she knows the real me. She's not sure. She's a little scared now. She's like, oh God.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Is she trembling?
She is. She was always like, what? She's always like, where's the Sitch from the internet? What's going on here?
Did she really say that? Does she really say that? Come on, be real here. Tell us. Be honest. Are you just memeing?
I said too much. Are
you just memeing?
I just said too much.
Oh no, she does.
I said too much.
Oh, she does. Where's the Sitch I fell in love with?
No, she means them even better in person than she ever could have anticipated.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I would have to see the context. So. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because I like you. So
okay, thank you.
But look, that little grunt laugh kind of made me kind of change my mind a bit. Seems like you're snowing us. Look, we'll never know. We might have to put a poll up to be able to decide.
Well, listen, you'll know
the truth.
You'll know when I get married.
He just got Jason in the chat says he just got smacked. It sounded like it, didn't it?
No, she's not home, but I don't even think she's in the chat. She's working or something.
Oh no! Oh, we're bad.
She's not here. She doesn't know I'm speaking about her. But you'll know. You guys will know when I get married. You see the little wedding pictures. You see my face.
Is that going to be the face?
Sitch,
oh my God!
Such avatar, right?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Brian for $10 says the far right and the far left are the same. They don't care about the other side. They want to supplant their side and will use the other side as a tool for why they should have power. That is very, very true.
Yeah, unfortunate, but true.
The Oceanist for $5 says Emma Vigeland is defending a commie running for senator in Maine. He has a Nazi tattoo. Already feeling vindicated on my last super chat. Wow. So is Hassan.
Whoa.
I didn't know the guy had a Nazi tattoo. That's the same guy that Hassan was like flipping out on his chat for in the crash out video. He was also defending that guy. So
really?
Yep.
How does he have a Nazi tattoo if he's a commie?
So I didn't know he had a tattoo. I saw that he used to be supposedly he used to be far right in the past, and now he's far left, which seems like it happens a lot. People just jump the horseshoe gap. They don't become moderate.
Right, yeah. It's too far to go back to moderate. Here, let me just jump over to the other radical side.
That's a great point. It's actually a shorter distance. Yes.
It is,
just jump the horseshoe gap. Yeah. That's a great point.
They just go through the frozen straits there.
Right. Val Van Gogh for $5 says, if you want to know where real power is, look for the exception. Ryan Bishop for 25 months of Discipline Equals Freedom says, I'm a bit behind, but Andrew Klavan always seems like the uncle you disagree with vehemently, but can't help but like.
Oh, yeah. He's totally likable. I like Andrew Klavan.
He has a very affable vibe energy to him that you're right. Like, yeah, he seems nice. I don't really follow him enough to know if he is nice, but he seems nice.
Yeah.
Squeezer, I Harley Weezer for $5 says, it's unfortunate Walsh is so unhinged because his mockumentaries have been pretty funny. Daily Wire leadership should ban him from all other media. Yeah, he's only allowed to do his mockumentaries where he asks people what a woman is or something.
Yeah, I do think it's terrible that Matt Walsh did What Is a Woman, because if What Is a Woman was done by Bill Maher, I think it would have so much more impact. So much more impact.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And Bill Maher could easily done that movie. Yeah. And it would have been aimed at the audience that needs to hear it. The left.
Right.
They're so able to dismiss it because it's Matt Walsh. So when that movie came out, I was like, this movie's great. It's horrible that Matt Walsh did it because it just allows people to ignore all of it. Say it's all
Right.
bullshit.
Batman Go for $5 says appeal to popularity is no longer a fallacy. It's our religion.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah, sad, but
terrible.
true. Yeah.
Andrew
Oceanist for-
Klavan did say that in the thing that we shouldn't be judging. We shouldn't be gatekeeping according to who's popular and who's not.
Mhm.
Which is true. Yes. Oh, the Oceanist for $2.
Oceanist
Dave
for
Smith
$2.
mentioned. Still waiting on World War III. Yeah, exactly.
I saw this like weird clip or post of Alex Jones saying like we're in World War IV, and people were like, wait,
Oh, really?
when did World War III happen? Did we miss it? What is he talking about?
Must have.
Yes.
Terrible. Well, at least no one I care about got offed. So
Ryan Uhl for $10 says if the right disavows their crazies, they will win the moderates to their side and negate all the crazies they would lose. The left, however, might not even benefit from disavowing the crazies. God bless. I think it's hard to say. I think that both sides would benefit. I do think the overwhelming majority of moderates are not crazy, and they will pivot to whatever side they feel is not crazy. But I think it's far more clear where I agree with is like, yes, if the right disavowed their crazies, I think they would overwhelmingly win a lot of the moderates to their side. Hayden Dill for $2 says you don't get sponsors without video, Sitch. What? This is a video. What are you talking about? This is a video.
It's true.
Sells Temple for $10 says the fact that killer had gotten away initially was a perfect incubator for the Israel conspiracy. Even though he was caught 1 to 2 days later, it was still enough time for the conspiracy to take root. Was that what it was? I don't know, because like, didn't the whole Israel Jew conspiracy, like, I felt like that took a week or longer to come out. And in fact, the fact that the guy was actually caught alive, okay, I think is like, that's the only thing that's even has some sort of pushback against this whole narrative. Because if that guy was killed, like if he wasn't captured, if he was killed, then everyone would be like, oh my God, obviously it was, the Jews or Israel or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And when this guy goes to trial and all this stuff comes out, Candace and Ian Carroll, and these fucking people, they're never going to acknowledge that they were wrong. They're just going to double, triple, quadruple down on it. So Landendorf for $10 says the problem with the for $20, thank you. Says the problem with the anti-woke movement is people view it as a battle over whether the left or right control the culture rather than a battle over whether liberals or illiberals control the left. That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah, that is unfortunate.
Part of the big problem was that when the woke stuff really took off, people didn't even understand we were in a battle of liberalism versus illiberalism. That wasn't even something anyone realized until it was far too late.
Liberalism is going to win the culture war, though, obviously.
Yes.
People love individual freedom too much.
In America.
Yeah. Well, I would argue everywhere in the world. This is why America is so popular.
Lander for $10 says, broadly speaking, the culture war should be viewed as a battle to ensure the left and right are controlled by left liberals and right liberals, respectively.
Yep.
Very, very,
very true. Yeah. Healthy form of conservatism. Healthy form of liberalism.
Jägermeister 79 for $5 says, Venezuela is a proxy for China. The drugs are a CCP operation to undermine the U.S. and our own hemisphere.
Wow. Okay. Bomb the shit out of them then.
Yeah,
Take
I think
those
that's
boats
going to
out.
be, if we do go to war with Venezuela and try to engage in some sort of regime change, I think that will be the framing of it. I am curious to see how many people will push back against it, because there was a lot of people. There's so many people in the pundit space that were their big selling point for Trump was he was anti-war, anti-war. But I think most of them will cave. I mean, Dave Smith already, he's already turned, call him a war criminal, so he's not. But I think most of the other people will just cave and support the whole action. So
didn't they give Obama a bunch of shit for drone striking terrorists and whatnot?
Yes, they did. They did.
I think this is just like a president thing. They're like, I'm not taking the risk.
Well, the whole thing with the boats is weird too, because I don't know if you saw, there's always been this question with them blowing up the boats about, do we really know that those are drug runners or not? There's a bunch of mixed reports or
I
people saying they're
watched the
not.
Democracy Now! Coverage. I know all about it.
Right. But then it was weird because they blew up some boat and there were survivors.
Oh,
And
really?
they picked up the survivors, and you would expect if these were drug runners, and they had, they would keep them or they'd put them in jail or something, but they didn't. They just sent them back to their country. So people were pointing at that and saying, "Well, is that evidence that they were in fact not running drugs?" So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, they didn't interrogate him or anything?
They must have I'm sure they interrogated them.
Right. Hmm. Well, they can't, even if they are drug runners, they can't take them prisoner, right?
Why not?
Why not?
You think the Trump administration would capture people running drugs to America and they just be like, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna send them back with a slap on the butt"?
We're
You
going
think that'd be the Trump
to
administration?
ship them back to
They would
Guantanamo
send them to
Bay?
El Salvador to go to that fucking prison, wouldn't they?
CCOT?
Yeah, they would have sent them to CCOT.
Okay. Send them to super jail.
But they didn't. So everyone's like questioning, okay, does that mean that they were not running drugs?
Publish the interviews. I want to see.
CS Paffy for $5 says the best dating advice really is just to bother cute chicks and eventually meet one with low enough standards for you.
It's not bad advice.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's framed obviously horribly because it's CS Paffy wants to make everything as incendiary as humanly possible. But look, I think it's like you should have more self-confidence in framing yourself as just low standard, but whatever.
Right.
You should be realistic, obviously, about your looks, your physical appearance. And you should say, listen, if my physical appearance is dog shit, I need to compensate. I need to compensate by being funny, interesting, rich. Like there's a lot of different ways guys can compensate, which you should be thankful because there's really not a lot of ways women can compensate, right? If they're not physically attractive. Can they become rich? Like they're like, nobody gives a fuck. You're rich. Okay, whatever.
Right.
Sure would be nice if you look nicer, but obviously women have makeup though, so they do have some.
They do have magic. Yes.
Yeah.
But that takes a lot of time and effort. So
makeup is kind of magic. So that's how they end up compensating.
Right.
Yeah.
CS Paffy, or that one. Daniel Senk for 26 months says if the comments were referencing Alex Jones Kanye debate, they get a pass. Every chat I was in was joking about it for days. Groypers suck. A team S class rule.
Thank you.
That's what's kind of annoying about this because I have seen that there are still some people that are trying to do the whole like, and I don't know, maybe some people are still just ignorant about Fuentes, but there's also the whole like, he's not really a white nationalist. What are you talking about? It's like, that was all, I thought that was all just completely out in the open after the Kanye West thing where he was talking about how much he loves Hitler. Okay. I thought we all saw it for what it was finally going on here, but I guess it never matters. There's always, you can always go backwards. So.
He stormed out on Tim Pool because Tim Pool was going to push back on whether or not the Jews control everything.
Yes.
Kanye was like, fuck this. I'm out of here. You got to believe.
Yes, that was an insane
to me, that was like the tipping point. That's what I realized. He does think the Jews control everything. Wow. Yeah. Wow. He's like, I know a lot of Jewish people and they control me.
Well, there was a very interesting conversation that Kanye had, and Nick Fuentes, he dragged him along. Yeah, with Gavin McInnes.
Yeah, totally.
Gavin McInnes is trying to tell him like it's not all Jews that are bad. It's just
I remember that. Yes.
And Kanye kept saying, no, it's just the Jews. And Fuentes keeps backing him up about no, it's just the Jews. And Gavin's trying so hard to be like, no, it's just the left-wing Jews. He's like, I have right-wing Jews that are like on my movement that are totally on my side. And Kanye just won't hear it.
Yeah. It is fascinating.
He's going on Tim Pool.
He can't find himself.
Kanye or Nick Fuentes?
Kanye can't find himself a Catholic attorney or Catholic manager or something.
Sure he did.
He's convinced.
I'm sure he did. Yeah. The Oceanist for $5 says, I love how the left views Bernie Sanders, a simp for Soviet Union, as a centrist. I love how the right sees Trump as 90s Democrat. Is that true? Does the left really view Sanders as a centrist? I know. Almost everyone on the left I thought viewed him, and I've talked to. I don't know about the young people, but I know like older people who were into politics for, more than the last 10 years. They all viewed Bernie Sanders as like pretty far left.
No, I think a lot of people on the left see Bernie as centrist. That checks out.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Most people don't know the difference between Medicare for all and the public option.
Well, that's true. Zero Fox says Nick Fuentes is going to be on Tim Pool tonight. Well, will Tim Pool actually
who's on
not be a complete coward about it and push back or is it going to just be a total like tongue fest?
CS Paffy's super chat distracted me. Who's on Tim Pool?
Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes is on. Wow. Okay.
He's going to be on tonight. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm curious whether he's going to actually push back or not.
I mean, I'll put $20 on Tim Pool's going to push back.
Okay.
You want to bet me?
I don't want to bet on something that I hope happens. Like, I hope he pushes back. I want him to push back, but I don't have a lot of confidence.
So look, then you should just bet me if you don't have confidence. I'm confident our man Tim Pool will push back, and I'm willing to bet $20 right now that Tim Pool is going to push back.
The Tim interview was canceled. Says cerebral
Look at that.
Okay.
Where's my $20?
I didn't really know what happened. It got canceled.
Look, that's pushing back. What are you talking about? He said, "Get the fuck off my show. This ain't happening.
Okay.
You owe me $20."
Why did they say? Did they say why it was canceled?
He said, "I don't want that." He said, "I don't want that racist on $20."
I thought he said Nick canceled last. Oh, so he's saying? Are you saying Nick?
Oh, Nick canceled. Okay. Well.
Okay. Well, there you go. Now you somehow give me $20.
That's still. Now that's a push.
Oh, okay. Look at this. Oh, okay. I see.
That's definitely a push.
Right.
CS Paffy for $5. Adam, if your physical appearance is dog shit, moves cursor over my face. Come on. Look, if that's you in the picture, CS Paffy, you're not a bad looking guy. So you've got something to work with there.
I can't see the pictures are really tiny, but from the little
picture,
it is.
It is tiny, but
you don't look ugly from the little picture. Okay.
Yeah.
So look like a good looking, fine lad. All right.
Yes. Fine young man. There we go.
Okay. Hennessy for 42 months. Thanks so much. Says, are you guys still going to do the whole comic book breakdown process video or stream? My dating advice is it's a numbers game, at least for my fat ass.
We haven't really done the comic book break, but we still can.
Sure.
Squeeze her. Oh, I guess this is a great name.
I Harley Louiser.
As in Squeeze Louise.
Says it is. Says when Bernie ran in 2016, he was seen as too far left. Yes, that was the whole when he ran. Yeah,
that's why he lost in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
He was running on Medicare for all, and people were more interested in the public option.
Yep.
They thought the Medicare for all was too risky. Which obviously, a lot of older people vote, and there are older people who are Democrats, and well, I guess they're going to be on Medicare soon anyway. So what do they care?
That was a huge part of the conversation in 2016. This is why I'm challenging the whole. And I don't know, it seems like maybe you remember now. That was a whole part of the whole Bernie Sanders thing where people were like, oh, well, you have to vote for Hillary over Bernie because Hillary's seen as more center. And if Bernie gets a nomination, then he can't win because all the Republicans are going to label him a socialist. Like that was a huge part of the conversation in 2016.
Yeah. I do remember him saying that private insurance should be illegal.
Yes.
Which was like, what?
Yeah.
That's a huge change. I think, and this is a challenge basically to the free market libertarian types, because I think our healthcare system is fucking trash. And I know a lot of them will say, well, it's because there's these third party payers that kind of disrupt the magic of capitalism, where it's the win-win exchange of goods and services for money. And when the third party payer gets involved, that it corrupts the system somewhat. And I'm sympathetic to that argument, but why did the free market system develop that system? Why does that system even exist at all?
Because free markets work sometimes.
Well, no, it's not. It's obviously it's a situation where it's not working. It's totally not working. So I wasn't
really listening to what you're saying.
I don't trust I don't trust the government to provide healthcare, be the sole provider of healthcare, and I don't trust the free market to be the sole provider of healthcare. The problem is that it's not really a want, it's a need.
Right.
In a situation where it's something that you want, you can always find some other substitute service. Healthcare, you don't have that option. So Bernie pitching the government just providing healthcare for everyone just seems, it's got to be some form of free market solution. The public option seems like the perfect answer, though.
You know what's a good example of dire need of regulation, government intervention regulation?
What's that?
Printer ink.
Oh, you don't? I have a laser printer, so
the whole printer ink scam. But your laser printer still uses ink. What do you mean? It doesn't use lasers.
It uses toner.
Well, okay, but was the toner significantly cheaper than the ink?
Fuck yeah! Oh my god!
Okay.
It's like it's night and day.
I know that. Yeah, well then I guess you got to do that.
Toner cartridges are so much cheaper.
The whole ink.
That's why I ditched the whole color printer bullshit.
Right.
I was like, fuck this.
Total fucking scam, yeah.
Nonsense. Yeah, and then I got an iPad, so I can do I have color reference wherever. I don't have to do prints. I don't print anything out anymore. Well, I do print out stuff occasionally, so.
Squeeze Louise says, I should not have put a question mark. It was a statement. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Brian for $5 says, honestly, the first and easiest thing to do is implement price transparency in healthcare and hospital settings before implementing radical change. Yeah, I had an endoscopy like months ago, where they put the little tube down your throat to look in your stomach. And it's so obnoxious because they tell you up front, like, it's going to cost X amount of money. And I'm like, okay, right. And my insurance will cover like some amount of it. It's not going to cover the whole thing. And then after, and this is true for every procedure, after they do it, they're like, oh, here's like, it costs like another $1,000, $2,000. And you're like, what? Why didn't you tell me this beforehand? And this is the thing, like, people always walk into medical care and it's like impossible for them to, or they don't give you the price range. And I remember I had the same doctor and they're like, oh, everything looks fine. And they wanted to do some kind of other procedure that was like almost the same procedure again. And I was like, well, how much is that going to cost? I'm like, well, we really won't know until like an hour before you're about to do the fucking procedure. I'm like, okay, no, thank you. I'm getting out of here. Like, this is a fucking scam.
This is ridiculous too. No other business runs like this. Obviously, look, if you're fixing cars, there can be stuff that comes up, but I mean,
wow, that's probably the worst example you could have chosen from.
I know, exactly. I was thinking it as I was halfway through it.
Yes. No, but you like walk into a store and you're gonna buy something. It's got the price there. Like, okay, or you go to.
But like, even in the process where unexpected things, the reason I jumped to cars was because even in that situation where unexpected things pop up, if you do enough of them, you can incorporate the unexpected situation into the price. Right. Because maybe you lose or break even on one job, but you make enough money on the other jobs to make the whole enterprise acceptable. And you're not the only one they're doing this procedure on, obviously. The problem is that it becomes like a negotiation between the insurance company and the healthcare provider on every single procedure.
Right.
So they're like, this is like a auction that we're having on this procedure instead of there being some sort of consistent pricing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Oceanist for $5 says, to clarify, I was talking about the commie socialists and the Bernie chant. Bernie chat. Oh, yeah. That is true. They think, the Bernie supporters, they all think that he's a centrist. That's very true. Also, you should talk to Yarn Brook about free market healthcare.
I emailed Yarn Brook and he never emailed me back. So I have a, this will happen. A lot of content creators will be like, oh yeah, we'll talk to him. Then they
I
just
know, and then
never
just
respond.
whatever. People are
so,
busy. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I get it. We're busy. Sitch and I are
Fondue.
busy.
That's true. Fondue for $10 says, on the friend group topic, sometimes you go along with what you think are jokes, only to find out later it was hyperbolic but true. It almost ends friendships. It feels like betrayal. That's another good point. Yeah. You're like, oh, we're just joking. It's like, are we? Question mark. Fondue for $6 says, if Bill Maher made What is a Woman, it would be a month before he ends up on the Daily Wire. No, I mean,
because he'd be thrown out.
I don't think he would. He wouldn't lose his job at HBO. He's been there. They've been milking that cash cow for decades. So,
I don't think it's something he wouldn't make.
but yeah, I think it's something he definitely would make. You know, it's interesting. I type in Tim Pool on YouTube because I wanted to see he was going to have on Nick Fuentes tonight. And the first thing that pops up is very interesting. Is an ad, a sponsored ad by Turning Points USA that's got Tucker Carlson's face emblazed across the front of it. That's interesting, considering the conversation we just had about who's on what side here.
There's a new feature here. If I click this button, it goes members only. Does that mean it just boots everyone who's not a member? They're just
What do you
gone.
mean?
Schedule your live to switch to members only.
Oh, well, don't press that button.
We should schedule it, and we can just, as soon as we go to members only, we can talk like a bunch of fucking mad shit, and then we'll
You're
just
right.
in the live stream.
If you guys want to know the true, the secrets that we believe that we're not going to tell the public because they're just too spicy.
They are,
well,
yeah.
You're going to have to be part of our members only stream. All right.
Yeah, this is where we tell you what we really think of Candace Owens. Actually, I think we've already pretty much told all of you what we really think of Candace Owens.
Well, I mean, we can say it, but with more like expletives.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Uh-oh. Sitch might drop the N-bomb.
Totally gonna do it. Totally gonna do it. None of you members better clip me. All right. I'm trusting you.
This is not the time to do that since JMac just gave 50 memberships to
oh no, we can't trust these people.
Half of our haters.
Bunch of randos. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no.
That's funny.
Mocker002 for $10 says, I do medical billing and can quote exactly what your procedure will cost, but people rarely call.
Well, give us a lowdown. Who do we need to call? Because
who do we need to call?
I've been in this exact same situation where they're like, "Oh, we can't tell you fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
Do the procedure and we'll see what happens."
Because even when I like with the endoscopy I was talking about, that like when I first got it, I was like, okay, well, I should just get this. And then like after I give them my insurance and some time passes, they give me some quote for how much it's going to cost, and I say, okay, I pay them in advance. And then afterwards, they're like, oh, well, here's all these other things. We didn't actually include all these other things. You had an anesthesiologist. You had some other expert that we didn't include in the price. We have some guy who did, who looked at your chart for 2 seconds that we didn't include in the price.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what is
oh my God.
I was like, why didn't you tell me this beforehand? What the fuck? So like, yeah, maybe if I had like realized that they were fucking with me and I knew like, oh, I have to call someone specifically and say, how much exactly is this going to cost me beforehand? They would have told me, but they should tell
I've had them on the phone when they're just like, we can't tell you.
Right.
And I start throwing out numbers. I'm like 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand.
Well, it wasn't that much, fortunately. So
they say that.
Yeah.
When I start throwing out big numbers, they're like, oh no, it'll be less than that. And then I'm like,
oh,
well,
gee,
we'll
thanks.
fucking, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Less than 100 grand. Thank you. You've really helped me make a decision here.
Yeah.
Are we almost done? I have to go to the bathroom. Oh, we're done? Okay, good. Done. All right. This was a great live stream.
Awesome.
guess
I don't know if I don't know what we're
Thursday
doing
we
Thursday.
don't really have anything. Maybe we'll stream over here on Thursday.
Yeah, who knows? Stay tuned.
All right.
Well, you'll find out. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Ask her out. She loves you.
Don't ever take no.
Oh,